council meeting of the governing body of Spring Hill, Kansas on Thursday, January 25th. If you guys could stand with me, we have Pastor Sarah Terrell that's here to do the invocation.
Heavenly Father, I just pray for your peace and your presence to be in this meeting. I pray over this council, Lord, that you would give them wisdom, clarity, insight, and great discernment. I pray over the town of Spring Hill, Lord, for your peace, God, and for your prosperity, for your protection, Lord. And I just pray, Lord, for the people, God, that you would bless them, that you would prosper them, that you would draw them to yourself. And I pray over Spring Hill, Lord, for your kingdom to come and your will to be done in Spring Hill as in heaven. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sure. Before we take the roll, is there anyone else that would like to sign up and speak that did not get a chance to get their name on the list? If so, if you just want to raise your hand, we'll come around and get you signed up on there.
Thank you.
We're good? All right. And with that, Madam Clerk, if you could please take the roll.
Dr. Feedback?
Here.
Your microphone.
Mr. Keel?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mrs. North?
Here.
Mr. Van Houten?
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum present.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. We did have a request to remove a presentation we had planned for tonight. With the agenda on there, it was just a presentation from the Spring Hill debt update by Baker Tilly. So we're going to remove that and put that on next meeting. Other than that, are there any other requested changes? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next, we'll move on to citizen participation. This is the time where the public can come and speak about anything they would like to. We just ask that you would state your name and your address when you come up to the microphone and speak clearly so everyone can hear you. And since we do have quite a big number here tonight, we do ask that you guys try to keep your comments to a minimum amount of time so we can get everybody in. The first person we have on the list is Kevin Schmidt. We'll keep it the normal time. We'll just see if everybody can try to kind of keep their, so we have a five-minute time limit. If you could just try to keep it to that or a little bit less. So.
Hi, I'm Kevin Schmidt. My address is 18917 Redbud Lane in Spring Hill. I have a few questions regarding the travel plaza, of course. And a lot of it comes from the sense of the vision that we have from Spring Hill, which is create a sense of home, citizens and community leaders partnered with cooperative spirit to create a safe neighborhood, a vibrant neighborhood, a family-oriented neighborhood, and create a thriving business district. Promote community of excellence through the sharing of strengths, promote respect for all differences, and promote a mutual desire to build a foundation upon which our children can build careers, raise their families, and create legacies. Some of my questions regarding this travel plaza, one of them is are there going to be any abatements offered? Are there going to be tax incentives for this business to come into Spring Hill? No? I see.
So, sir, this is during citizen participation.
No question.
It's not a back.
Okay.
Yeah, and
All right.
I'm sorry about
typically
that.
Don't answer. To answer your question, the answer is no.
Okay.
But we typically don't answer the question.
All right.
Yeah, they're not trying to be rude to you all if they don't respond.
You're just fine. Thank you. So some of the other things that come up to the surface are making sure we do a traffic study, making sure that we have a good, safe Highway 169, which isn't so safe at the moment. Another study that should be done is around the noise because of the refrigerant trailers that might be parked there for 24 hours. That there's some type of landscaping around to block that noise out and keep it isolated to the plaza. Another concern is the safety of anyone going through that plaza. As I look across other plazas in McPherson, El Dorado, Emporia, Topeka, Wichita, they all look great at the beginning and then they quickly turn into an eyesore. So how is this district going to be cleaned and kept from becoming an eyesore? So that's another item that kind of comes up. Another one that comes up is how many local jobs will it really produce? Grocery stores produce a lot more jobs that, as far as I know, than a truck stop, because you have people working the counter, cleaning, and that's just about it. So how are we generating more jobs in this environment? And also the revenues that are coming in. What is the revenues that we anticipate seeing from a travel plaza versus some other business that could occupy that same space in land? Because once that land's gone, that land is gone. Once it's utilized, it's utilized. So I think it would be important to kind of look at some of those items as well. That's really all I had to say. I didn't want to come up and say yay, nay, but I just have so many questions, and I really think that before you do a final vote, some of these should be answered, especially the traffic study. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next we have on the list is Rex Schick.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for the opportunity to get up here and speak my concerns. And I'd also like to take an opportunity to thank you all for your public service. So I'll start from that.
Excuse me, can I have your name and address for the record, please?
Oh, you really want that?
Please, sorry.
My name is Rex Schick. My address is 16295 West 183rd Street. I've lived in the Spring Hill area now for 34 years on 183rd Street. I have ran a business locally here. You can consider the Spring Hill area, a home. My daughter went to school here, and it's a great community. So I'm currently opposed to the Travel Plaza as it's currently proposed. And I would echo a lot of the concerns that the last gentleman said. I'll start with one concern that I have, the main concern, at least immediately anyway, and that's the traffic congestion and the safety related to that intersection. I transfer through there regularly, and the ability to get out on the highway from 183rd Street or across the highway from 183rd Street anytime between 6 a.m. and 9:30, and the same way at night is dangerous, and people are pulling out there and pulling in the middle of the median, and I can't imagine how that could work safely without, in my opinion, without an overpass. And I think that's I don't know whether that's in the plans. I haven't been able to determine whether there is a traffic study that's been done on that area. I haven't seen it. It's not been made public. So, but the traffic congestion, in my opinion, to put a travel plaza there would just would make the citizens of Spring Hill a lot more dangerous than it currently is. I would ask, that the council and mayor consider, having a travel or a traffic study. And, if you haven't already, and be able to use that information to determine how can we move forward safely. Obviously, there's some other negatives to a travel plaza or truck stop in the area. Noise, limited parking. A lot of the truck stops that I'm aware of, you can park in the truck stop and it fills up, and then they start parking other places on local streets around just to because they need a place to park. Increased crime rates, negative impact on the community overall, environmental impact, the visual impact, sex trafficking. We all know that that's a kind of a haven for sex trafficking. We don't need that in our community. The regional and state funding, I know that there will be tax revenue generated from this. I hope the tax revenue that's generated will certainly offset the additional cost in, maintaining streets and the additional costs associated with regulations and enforcement and police department and all those types of things. So, I would request the council and the planning commission consider any of the long-term benefits of the community versus the cost to the taxpayers, as well as the negative factors that are before approving this particular development. So those are my concerns. I have written my concerns down, and I will leave a copy of those with her. And I really appreciate the opportunity to stand here and speak my concerns, and I hope that you decide not to approve the travel plaza. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have on the list is Chuck Morse.
All right, my name is Charles Morse, or Chuck. I live at 18460 South Ridgey Road, and I hope to live there for a very long time. Been there for 14 years. And as usual, I brought slides, so I appreciate you allowing me to entertain you for hopefully 5 minutes or less. But so the bigger picture here is, where I live and where a lot of my neighbors live, we're kind of in the shadow of the Monarch cement plant. And what's funny to me is that, we've thought that that was horrendous, because of the lighting, the truck traffic, the damage those trucks did to 183rd Street that caused it to be closed for months. And then the ash that's produced by that plant that falls on our homes, our cars, our patio furniture. And what's kind of comical to me is that, we thought that was as bad as it could get. But the more I think about a truck plaza, the more I believe that this would be much higher impact than the cement plant, because the amount of traffic and the potential risks and impacts of a truck stop I think are much higher. So I'll run through some of those really quick. So factors for consideration. A truck stop is a very transitory business, which I think is really incompatible with the character of Spring Hill. And it would be a terrible welcome sign on the north end of our community. So imagine the welcome to Spring Hill sign there that's being flanked by a tall truck stop sign with glowing diesel fuel prices under it. It's just it's not a good look. And it's not something that I think will encourage the type of development on the other three corners that we want to see in the future. This particular proposal is incompatible with some of our industrial development guidelines, which says in our comp plan that we should promote clean industry. The plan should be sensitive, or the yeah, the site plan should be show sensitivity to noise and visual relationships, have berms, shade trees, landscaping, minimize signage. There's nothing about landscaping in this site plan. There's nothing about signage in this site plan. And as others will say, there's also nothing in here about a traffic study. And so the cost to the city of improving 183rd Street and 191st Street, how much of that tab will KDOT pick up? How much will the city have to pay? What is the scope of those improvements? Those are unknown. So I don't think we're even in a position to vote on it because all the information isn't present. But more importantly, a truck stop is a very high traffic, high noise, high pollution location that can also attract crime. I'm going to skip through the industrial guidelines. So pollution wise, I just want you guys to consider the impact of this site has over 80 parking spots. So imagine 80 trucks, over 80 trucks idling all night, emitting carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, particulate matter, which all produces ground level ozone. And that's why idling is prohibited in many countries. It's regulated in 31 states, including our area, but it's not a ticketable offense. And it's because of what it does to the ground quality. So like the Cardinal Glass plant, all of its emissions are, 7 stories up. These emissions are at ground level. And so for those of us who live near the creek, near Wolf Creek, the air, it collects there and it doesn't move and it's very stagnant. And so this is the type of pollution that'll just be down there. Is that my time up already? Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll speed up. So 160,000 idling hours per year. Truck stop will be noisy. Jake brakes, they used to slow down. You can hear them from miles away, even when you prohibit them. And sex trafficking is a real issue. You guys should know that it's not a victimless crime, and truck stops attract it, sadly. I pulled some pictures of the TA truck stop that's just west of 189th and I-35, just to illustrate. The facade looks nice, just like this site plan. An aerial view, it looks nice. But when you look closer, it's only as nice as the staff and the patrons maintain it. And I pulled out the worst. These are not the worst pictures. There were worse ones, but they weren't appropriate. But just, you can see these on the Google Maps review. The trucker lounge there is filthy. The pumps are filthy. The bathrooms are filthy. And these are multiple reviews on multiple days. So we don't know how this truck stop will be maintained, but it is a risk. So in conclusion, there's better, lower impact, lower risk options for Spring Hill. Ones that won't discourage compatible development along 169 Highway, including multifamily on the west side, and including discouraging potential home buyers as they enter Spring Hill. And it's also incompatible with our guidelines. It's incompatible with the character. And during the planning commission, one of the members said, hey, it'll be good to get the trucks out of Spring Hill. And to which I say, well, this is still Spring Hill. It's just the north end of Spring Hill. And I would say, rather than saying not in our backyard, I think we should say, when it comes to a truck stop, not in our community. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Brittany Green.
Hello, I'm Brittany Green, 18475 West 183rd Street. Hello, council members. My name is Brittany Green. My husband and I have lived in our home off 183rd just under 10 years. I'm a proud mother of a Spring Hill student, and until recently, we had not considered calling any other place our home. Our family has grown roots here, and we feel blessed to be a part of the Spring Hill community. I want to start by saying that I support the growth and development of the city and recognize its potential. However, something has changed over the last year or two, and development has felt rushed and sometimes even reckless. As my neighbors have shared with you, we are still dealing with the consequences of Monarch Cement Company development off 183rd and 169 Highway. That experience and others have opened our eyes. We have lost trust and faith in the process and ask that due diligence be done and that the City Council hold the Planning Commission to the high standards laid out in the Spring Hill Comprehensive Plan. It's clear to you by now that major pieces of the Travel Plaza are missing: a traffic study, landscaping study, research on environmental effects, and alignment with Spring Hill's comprehensive plan. I understand that revenue is front of mind for many, but I hold safety and the overall well-being of this community higher than revenue. I would love to see retail shops and even casual dining restaurants on this plot of land instead of a 24-hour truck stop. I fear how much this Travel Plaza will change the beautiful landscape of Spring Hill and potentially deter those who are considering making Spring Hill their home. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Curtis Holland, I believe, or Hollard, one of the two.
Thanks, Mayor, members of the council. I am legal counsel for the developer of this proposed site, and I'd like to reserve my time to speak when the item is called and address the issues at that point in time. So
Sounds good.
no need to talk right now, thanks.
All right, thank you. Next person on the list is Brett Peterson.
I'm Brent Peterson. My address is 18209 South Brentwood Drive. So yeah, 3 years ago, we moved into the Spring Hill community, dream home, love it here. We have a daughter in high school and love the community. We lived in Olathe the previous 20 years. And, you know, we moved down here because we wanted to get away from the city a little bit, right? But at the end of the day, you know, you can't stop progress. You can't stop growth and development, and I get that. In the city, you know, you guys are a business. I get it. And thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. But, you know, you're a business that has to live with some really long-term decisions, right? Because, you know, projects like this, they don't mature in 5 years. They hang around for 20, 30 years, right? These types of projects have a lot of long-lasting impacts. And I'm speaking specifically to the travel plaza, of course. And so I'm opposed to it. I live right down the street, and, you know, it's been tough the last couple years dealing with all the added traffic, the road being closed down. When I drive on 183rd by the concrete plant, there's some mornings where there's liquid all down the street. You can see it. They come out of the concrete plant and it carries with them all the way to 169. I don't know what it is. I'm assuming it's just water, but I really don't know. And I don't really like driving in that. You know, okay, probably not that big of a deal, but the point is this. That's a big industrial area over there right now. And I don't see how a truck stop is going to elevate that area. I'm strongly opposed to it because it feels like the decisions are being moved at a rapid pace without all of the due diligence. So I don't have anything else to add other than what has already been brought forward. I think I sent a letter in earlier this week. And, you know, I just want to encourage you guys to take the time, pump the brakes. If this looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And so just understand, you know, what are the consequences of a big decision like this. And I know you guys will make the right decision, and we support you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did want to say something real quick. We did all receive lots of emails this week, and I know, at least for myself, and I believe most of the members up here, we did read every single one of those emails, and I did my best to respond to every single one. So if I didn't respond to you, I apologize, but I think I responded to all of them. So we do take those into account. So I appreciate you guys being involved in this community. We all love this community and want what's best for it. So thank you for coming out and being involved and reaching out to us. Next person on the list is Gail Strahan.
Yeah, my name is Gail Strahan, 21470 West 181st Terrace, Olathe, Kansas. Yeah, I have that's pretty loud. Hey, the first thing I have to say is 199th, when you put the quick trip in, that was a nice addition, worked out well. But we know there were so many wrecks at that point on 199th and 169. So I drive a truck professionally. I don't know how you could decide to put a TA, which is honestly, if you go to the TA out there on Homestead Lane and check the layout of it, not only is it an eyesore, huge, and I hope whoever has the vote here does me a favor and everybody here, and I hope you go take a look at that TA and see if that's what you want for your community. Because you will have human trafficking, you will have a lot of indigent people coming to this community. And if that's what you want, and you can feel good and you can sleep good at night, knowing that that's there, because that's right across 183rd, which I live, you know, right across the street from there, well, then good for you. But I'm gonna tell you, as a professional truck driver, you can't even pull out. You have to go right. There's no way you can make a left-hand turn there. There's no lights. You're gonna have more wrecks than you had on 199th and 169 if you put that TA there. You will have more wrecks, because when a truck driver pulls out, they take large right turns, right? How long do you think it takes to get 80,000 pounds of a truck up to speed to even be able to get to 175th, where therefore you have another truck's, you know, a light? And then, I mean, what you're gonna encourage too is you're gonna encourage truck drivers. They're gonna look at their Google Maps and find out how they can get across that way station. And they're gonna take 183rd. And then you don't even see no trucks until you're actually make it on, if you get on 183rd, if you can make it across both lanes of traffic, you're not gonna see that no truck route. And we see trucks going down our road. I live on Lone Elm. You see those trucks all the time, and they're not supposed to be. Well, you don't have enough police in Spring Hill to enforce it. We know that. You don't have enough police to enforce this TA travel center, where you're gonna have a lot going on. It's really a dirty place. I don't want it in this community. I don't think you want it in your community. If you just bought a brand new house that you're paying extra taxes for across the street that cost you $500,000 and $600,000, and you're still paying extra taxes for the infrastructure for those roads because you have to, and then you're paying HOAs, you're gonna tax people out of that community. Where the new school is, if you know what I'm talking about, I'm sure you do. Could you imagine, seriously, you spend that much money and you wanna live in this community because you love it? It's a nice community. Everybody here can vouch for that. Would you want a TA across? Would you? You answer that for yourself before you say yes or no. And I know there's a lot of money somewhere, but also the other thing is, how can that go there? That's a commercial property. That's not industrial. So these are just things that I hope you look at when you make that deciding vote. And I pray that your pockets aren't lined, and I pray you do the right thing, because Spring Hill's a nice community. I've loved it. I've lived here for 23 years. And one more thing I want to get in. On Lone Elm, and I know this is Olathe, but on Lone Elm and 175th, okay, that's the truck route road. And actually, you can only get on there in so many hours. Do you know how many people died at that corner right there before they finally put a light in? If you just do, if you figure out, you not only figure out, have KDOT do all the, people going on that road, the trafficking, you go look at 175th and Lone Elm Road, and we fought for a light for years. And we finally just got a light, not even maybe 3 years ago, okay? And then honestly, this is the last thing, and I'll end it because I know my time's up. We just now, not even 6 months ago, got no truck routes on all of our roads. 199th, they have to go down 175th because they're trying to get past the scales. Our roads, we have trucks. I live on the corner of 175th or 181st and Lone Elm. We have trucks going down there, but you don't have the police to enforce it. So they don't give a shit. So I don't mean to be so blunt, but seriously, when you cast your vote for a TA that's trash right there, I hope you don't have property there. And I honestly hope you don't have kids. That this is a nice community. And if you want to turn it to trash, let the TA go in and you guys sleep with that. And I don't mean to be rude, but I'm just being honest. So thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, we have Jamie Cochran.
Jamison Cochran, 18233 South Lone Elm Road. I think what I came to address pretty much has been addressed multiple times. Me personally, as far as the business aspect, as I own a semi-repair business on Woodland, I'm not opposed to a truck stop, but I'm opposed to the location. Just for the simple fact of the roads and doing a study without having an overpass, something. I mean, that intersection is a disaster in the mornings when I go to work. It's a disaster when I come home at night. And there is no way a semi could come in and out of there turning, especially at night and during normal traffic time. It's a mess. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Next, we have Alan Buster.
Good evening, Alan Buster, 22677 West 183rd. We've lived there going on 10 years and really enjoy that. So we take 183rd a lot, straight east there, go past the cement plant, and that's kind of our normal route. And I just can't imagine having a truck stop there either. I was going to talk about the human trafficking aspect of it. I think that's been covered pretty well. I know the state of Kansas thinks human trafficking at a truck stop is it's one of our problems here in this state and in this nation. And when you get a CDL, you've got to have training now online about human trafficking and what you can do about it. And I've got it in my phone, but they list 3 things: truck stops, travel plazas, rest stops. It's a big problem. Yeah. But so I'm not in favor of it. I understand your responsibility here, and I applaud you for taking the time and being open to possibilities, and want to make improvements for Spring Hill, because we love Spring Hill too. But that's what I want to cover. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ron Aris.
Good evening. My name is Ron Arts. I live on 21139 West 186 Terrace in Spring Hill. It's a Dayton Creek community. We've lived there for almost 3 years now. It's a great place to live. One of our boys was born there. Yeah, great place to raise a family. But I'm here to express my concerns regarding proposed construction of the travel plaza. Yeah, sorry, English is my first language, so if you can't understand me, I'll try. I understand that such a facility would potentially create revenue for the city, but I would ask you to consider the following things. There's a potential for human trafficking. Truck stops have been identified as one of the hotspots for human trafficking. The location is not great. Within a 3-mile radius, there's 3 schools. My kids will go to those schools. I don't want them to be the victim of human trafficking. That scares the living daylight out of me. And like the others have said, there's also increased traffic congestion. 169 highway is already very busy. Adding a travel plaza would only make it busier. Noise and air pollution. Trucks often leave their engines idling when parked. You can hear the noise. We can hear the engine braking in our house. That's how loud it is. And adding more trucks to it will only increase that. And also, it hasn't been mentioned before, I think, but everyone is thinking it. Impact on property values. We live in a new build community. We pay a premium price for those houses. We pay extra taxes because of the appraised value. I don't think people will want to move into those houses, which, in the long run will decrease the tax revenue for the city of Spring Hill. And I hope that the council will take my concerns into consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Sam El Tommy, I believe. Sorry if I butchered your last name.
Sam El Tommy. I live at 18264 South Brentwood Drive. We've been in the community in our 11th year right now, so and we love the area, and we hopefully will stay here much longer. So, by the way, thank you all for your service. We appreciate that. I know you've got this balance between doing what's best for the community fiscally wise and public health wise, public safety. My focus is a couple really, is mostly predominantly, everything's been said tonight that I'm worried about, but really the public safety part of the driving. That intersection is just horrible, horrible every hour of the day, at extremes at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. And my impression, I think if you listen to last conference meeting, they were going to start the next day. You're not going to have a right intersection fixed up and ready to go for prime time by the next day. It's gonna be probably a couple, 3 years. So it's gonna be extreme case there of turning. I'll be honest with you, I've advised my daughters to not go that route at all. Go up Ridgeview and go the other way. That's sad, really, if you think about it. That you tell your daughters, don't go that way, because it's too unsafe to accelerate northbound. And if you ever heard of the game Frogger, that's what that intersection is like. If you want to go up to Lone Elm, westbound from where I live, you know, it's exactly what it is. And when you get to the middle, you got to be careful. Someone's not coming at you from the north, coming at you from the south. They both want to make a turn, and you don't really know which they're going to land on, your right or your left. You're just hoping for the best. Now you're talking about a 40-foot trailer, 80-foot trailer, whatever it is, 80,000 pounds coming at you. They got to stop hundreds of feet to the south or in the north. It just seems incredibly unreasonable, okay? We're not ready for prime time. Maybe you'll get it in a couple, 3 years, but I would suspect you ought to fix the road, fix the traffic patterns before you do this. You know, we saw the impact of the concrete plant, caused a whole lot of problems in that road. It's all concrete right now. And for a section till you get to 169, it's not concrete, it's paved, and that's gonna need to be replaced here soon, I imagine, okay? The other thing I wanna address is the bridge, the eastbound. Someone said in the last meeting, they're not gonna go that way. Yeah, they are gonna go that way. They are gonna go east. If you're going north and heading up 175th, you're gonna cut through 183rd and go to Ridgeview and go up that way. So they are gonna go that way. And I encourage you, and I don't know really what your protocol and process is for review, but that bridge is not in the best of shape, okay? I don't know if you're familiar with the National Bridge Inspection Program in the United States. Let me just read you one section, okay? In reference to the structural part, okay? This was in 2016. I imagine no work's been done since then. It's in fair condition. It's called, all primary structural elements are sound, but have minor section loss, cracking, spelling, or scour. That's in the structure. So if we haven't looked at that, haven't considered it, I don't know, but that sounds pretty negligent. I'm sorry to say that, but it is. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Safety's important more than anything else. I appreciate the fact you need revenue, but really that's secondary to everything that you heard tonight and what I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Michael Harwood.
Hello, I'm Michael Harwood, and I live at 22750 West 183rd Street. I moved there with my wife a year and a half ago. We escaped the suburbs of Shawnee because my wife grew up in the country. I grew up in the city. I wouldn't have to give up my job as a medical doctor because I only live 6 minutes from I-35, so I can still go to my hospitals and my office. Been in practice about 40 years. But you know, it's nice to get up in the morning and look at Venus. There's no light pollution there. It's quiet. I've been a terrible sleeper my whole life. I can actually sleep at night because it's so dark and quiet. So I'm definitely opposed to this truck plaza. I think as a medical doctor, I'll spell out the risks to people that will live in that area that this truck plaza will cause in terms of detrimental health. We all know that you're nothing without your health. Well, the first thing is asthma. A lot of children live in this area. You're going to put this truck stop in a residential area. So people, kids, and asthma, by the way, is increasing in incidence in our children. They're going to be breathing this truck exhaust, which has all these particles, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and other small particulate particles. And they will cause an increased exacerbation of asthma. More asthma exacerbation requiring more doctor visits, hospital visits, and yes, children die from asthma exacerbations. I've seen it. What will also happen is there will be more viral infections and bacterial infections because these particulates cause inflammation in the bronchial airway, causing bronchoconstriction. More asthma, more wheezing. Kids will be missing more school as a result of that. Adults, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or asthma, same thing. Breathe it in. You are going to have more respiratory illnesses, more doctor visits, more deaths more pneumonia. This will continue to go on. The second thing, people on oxygen, same thing, whether they have scar tissue in the lung called pulmonary fibrosis, they're going to be breathing the stuff in, and they're going to have similar problems. Ear infections in children. We all know that smoking, if your parent is a smoker, you're going to have more ear infections in your child. Well, I can guarantee you when they start breathing all this exhaust in neighborhoods around there, there's going to be more otitis media, yes, middle ear infections. They will be seeing their doctors. They're going to have a lot of ear pain. I hope they don't lose their hearing as a result of this as they get older, with a lot of fluid behind the ear canal, in the ear canal behind the eardrum. Not to mention people who have adults with medical problems, including hypertension. When you breathe in all these particulate matters, it's going to cause a change in the lining of your blood vessels called the endothelium, which will cause vasoconstriction. Constriction of the blood vessels causes increased blood pressure. Increased blood pressure over a period of time increases the chances of heart attacks, myocardial infarction, congestive heart failure, and also will continue to increase angina. All these things are real and will happen to people who live in that area. Not to mention increasing depression and anxiety. My goodness, all the people that I see in the office with depression and anxiety, it will go up. People will not be happy with this project. Not to mention noise pollution and light pollution. Did you know that one poor night of sleep will decrease the T cells, these are your T killer cells that are used to fight viral infections, including COVID, are decreased by 30% just from one bad night's sleep. That's why there's increased viral infections when people sleep poorly, including increased COVID. It affects your immune system adversely.
Sir, the timer has gone off, so
okay.
You can go on for a little bit more if you can try to wrap it, bring it to a wrap up.
Well, I think that's, and not to mention cancer, lung cancer in particular. Well, for the same reason, you're breathing these inflammatory particles into your lungs, and people that already have risk factors for lung cancer, such as smoking, you're going to have a greater chance of getting lung cancer by breathing in this exhaust. So from that standpoint, I do recommend that I do oppose the construction of the truck plaza because of health-related reasons that I'm sure nobody even thought of until I just mentioned it. Thank you. I hope to sleep well tonight.
Thank you very much. The next person on the list is Tom Fauglid. Was I at least close?
Pretty close. Tom Fauglid. I live at 21400 West 181st Street. I've been there in the same house for 31 years. My wife has been there for going on 37 years. So we've seen a lot of the changes. Northern Spring Hill, Olathe, all that kind of stuff. We're off of Lone Elm. And everybody's listed even a lot of stuff I didn't even think about being opposed to this Travel Plaza truck stop. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, and it has to do a little bit with the traffic, but also the safety of our young drivers. I've put 5 children through the Spring Hill schools from kindergarten all the way through graduation. We're now on grandkids who will be driving, in probably about 6 or 7 years. And you just can't, 191st is horrible. Of course, now with all the new Dayton Creek and the schools and everything there, 199th has always been real busy, new high school up there. I say new because I've been here forever, but the thing that concerns me too is you have to get across 169 somewhere to get to the high school, to get to the middle school, to get to those other schools. And even my youngest daughter graduated 8 or 9 years ago now, even back then, and that was before a lot of all this trucking and everything coming from 199th and the Edgerton Gardner area it's all flowing this way too. 199th is crazy, 175th is crazy. It never used to be that way, but even back then I would have to tell them, you can't just cross 169. You're either going to have to go north to 175th, and that was before there was even a light there, so that intersection was dangerous, and then get on 169 and then get to 191st or 199th and then go that way. And I just can't imagine without 169 becoming a restricted access interstate where you have on and off ramps, or we have bypasses of some sort, whether it's under, over, whatever. You can't, 6 a.m. to 8 or 9 p.m., I avoid it at all costs. And even taking a right, even coming from my house to Spring Hill, I mean, even 5 years ago, you didn't sit there and wait unless it was rush hour traffic or something. And now it could be, 7 o'clock at night or, noon. And just to take a right, you have to wait. And I can't imagine these 15, 16, 17-year-old drivers that they don't pay attention the way it is to traffic. I mean, I just think it's going to be really, really dangerous for the school kids and of course all the other things that people have mentioned too, as far as property nobody wants a truck stop in their backyard. I think being further south would be better, maybe past 200 and 23rd, but even further south. But also I think it's going to bring a lot of truckers. We already get a lot of stuff on Lone Elm and even 183rd, and they say they're lost, or 199th. That's just going to bring a lot of that stuff from Edgerton, and it's going to make 199th basically a truck route, which it's a residential road, and they've already had to do a lot of improvements to it in the last few years, but I think that's just going to really increase that amount of traffic, which is going to make everything 10 times worse than it already is. So thank you for listening to me, and just want to let you know I'm opposed to it.
Thank you. Next, we have Stephen Sanford.
Good evening, Stephen Sanford, 19795 West 183rd Street. Literally in the streetlights of the Monarch Tower of the concrete plant, because of the poor reading and planning of the agreement with the city from Monarch when that facility was put in, where they put a little asterisk in the subtext that said they can keep their lights on all night long. Well, as a resident that can throw rocks at their facility, they don't live there 24/7. They don't operate 24/7, and they have no business or reason, as I've talked to the employees at the plant, for that to be lit. But I know they also are ready to sue the city if the city says they have to turn the lights off. So don't take that. As far as the travel plaza, ditto. Everything that was said. But I really do want to talk about the traffic and the traffic. The C and the K. The K, definitely drugs, prostitution, child trafficking. The devil that is involved in all of those horrible things would be just a wide open gate at this travel plaza. But the other traffic, as we've talked about, my wife is standing here wanting to talk about the communications that we've had with KDOT, and we've talked to the city, the employee at the street department, because for someone that lives at the railroad crossing, that road closure that was prolonged and delayed, and then it found out into the cold weather, and now concrete takes too long to cure in the weather, and it was a great idea, but it still didn't come across the way they said it was going to be, all concrete, and now it's like half and half, and now we're already going to tear it up because we're going to put some sort of funny 4-lane change, but not change 169. So to fast forward, because of all the other comments that have been made, I just want to bring you to a domino effect that I find rather interesting. 199th across at Woodland used to be a railroad crossing. Years and years ago, we put an overpass in. It's awesome. It's so great to not have to wait for a train every time you cross that tracks. But fast forward to the intermodal being installed and all of the things that the cities over there were fighting through. But when I'm sitting at the intermodal and I type in Google Maps, to get onto 69 highway, it automatically wants me to take 199th because of the overpass rather than going on a grade level crossing on the railroad tracks. So that automatically takes 175th, which is already widened and structurally strengthened for that traffic. But now, because of that grade level crossing, it eliminates me from having to worry about that because of Google Maps. Now, fast forward to the Quick Trip, having a roundabout in the backyard, which I thought there was going to be a travel plaza there, but that's a whole nother topic, I think. The truckers that are stopping at this travel plaza, parking wherever they may find it, if the travel plaza's full, which would be in my driveway, they're going to turn on their Google Maps and they're going to want to get to 69 highway, which means instead of going out to 169 and accelerating up the hill to 175th or coming down to 100, they're going to take an eastbound route down 183rd and they're going to hit Ridgeview. Now, the bridge on 183rd, not good. The Ridgeview traffic is extremely dangerous, and I pray daily for all of our high school kids and the families that travel that road of how many times are we going to drop kids. And I'm
Sir, if you could try to
I understand that. It is extremely important to pray for these kids and the safety of this community, because the traffic are not being considered. So if we hold off on the developmental planning and some sort of revenue in that aspect and look forward into the traffic planning and traffic assessment of the highway, and maybe take out some extra filth in the 175th and railroad crossing section. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then fine, but take that out and communicate with Olathe and Johnson County and put an overgrade crossing there instead. And then the traffic from the intermodal will be out of Spring Hill and it'll be on 175th Street. So thank you for your time. I pray that you consider not inviting the devil to your next door, because he will end up in your own house. Thank you and amen.
Thank you. Next, we have Linda Harwood.
Hi, I'm Linda Harwood, 22750 West 183rd Street. I'm kind of newer to the community, about a year and a half, and we moved out here because of all of the things that we had heard about this community being family-oriented and everything. Wanting to get away from the city, wanting to get away from the crime, wanting to get away from a lot of the traffic, the noise pollution. We moved out so that we could see the stars, we could see and feel and experience the country. And coming from a family that I grew up with, a bunch of truckers. My dad owned trucks, my brothers owned trucks, my nephews own trucks. It's a big business. And it tears up our roads, it tears up our streets, it makes it unsafe for our kids. If you're a kid that's been around a truck, you understand what a truck is. But if you're a kid that's never been around a truck, you don't know what they are. And if you're new driving and you're coming up on one of these trucks, you don't understand that they swing wide. You don't see these things. It's going to be very, very unsafe for the children of this community. My kids are grown. My kids don't live around here anymore, so my grandkids aren't here. But I do worry for everybody around us. So that's all I have to say about safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mary Beth Laughlin.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Laughlin. I live at 19125 West 183rd Street. And I spoke here when y'all were talking about, I forget what the other thing was right now. Oh, I know, that 80 acres back there. But I remember this one person said something that just stuck with me. He either here or up here, I'm sorry, I don't remember who, but he said, and I don't want to get him in trouble, but he said, now folks, we didn't realize what that concrete plant was going to turn out to be. If it had, it would not have passed. And the reason I'm bringing it up now, it's not to be rude or say bad, but I just feel like, wait a minute, you know, we think we're dealing with this nice, pretty new thing, and, you know, it's just going to cause a whole destruction to our neighborhood in Spring Hill. And then when you can't get people to come in and you don't get people to come back and you don't get people to buy, your tax base is going to go down and down and down. And this is your big chance to sell that property that's not been developed before, to decide what's going to happen to it. And that's a big decision. I don't envy you all, but I don't think that's really the way you want to handle things. We've already got enough semis going down 183rd between Ridgeview and the highway anyway. They're just trying to dodge things, and they're coming right in front of our house. And also, it seems to me that the ratio of TAs in this area is already kind of, what do you call it, overloaded. I don't know that another one is going to be that good. And I would suggest, can you find businesses to put there, like, what do they call them, strip malls, where they've got like a beauty parlor and it maybe ice cream shop or a family restaurant, not fast food, but can you attract that kind of business? So that we also look good attracting things to the other three corners there. And this is going to have a long-term effect on a decreased tax amount, because Spring Hill is a good town. Let's keep it that way. Thank you all.
Thank you. Next, we have Steve Laughlin.
I am the other half of that. I live at, my name's Steve Laughlin. I live at 19125 West 183rd Street. I am thoroughly impressed with the comments from all the participants tonight. I don't really want to rehash what they went over because I agree with everything that has been said up here. As a resident of 35 years on 183rd Street, I remember when it was nothing but cornfields, and I know progress has to come. When it does come, I'd like to feel that it's an asset to our community. The concrete plant, my God, what do we call that? But now, this travel plaza, it is no asset. It's another huge liability that you're dragging into our neighborhood. It's ruining our neighborhood. I cannot believe that we can't have better plans for this. The traffic has been mentioned numerous times, and that's one I will retouch again. That intersection is a disaster now. And 183rd Street by my house is picking up truck traffic at a horrendous pace. I cannot imagine more coming by there. And on top of that, if you drew a spider web of the traffic of that area, this travel plaza is pretty much the center of this area. It's reaching out on the other side of 169 highway to the high schools and even the grade schools. All this traffic is going to be converging through this area of this truck stop. These kids going back and forth to school. I mean, a truck stop like this shouldn't be the center of all the community activity. And I believe it is. I believe it's a major mistake to bring this. And I can only hope and wish that you all decline and turn this down. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all that we had sign up on the list, but if there's anyone else in the audience that would like to speak, if you could just come up and state your name and address, that'd be great.
Hi. Debbie Dominic, 19299 West 209th Street, Spring Hill, Kansas 66083. I am on the Planning Commission as well, and I just have to say that I really apologize for my vote for yes on this. I did it, I guess I felt pressured because I do feel like in a lot of ways we're always told that, you know, there's legal reasons, or if it fits the zoning, do this. But what I want to ask you all is, if there wasn't any kind of legal pressure, would you really want this in Spring Hill? It's not close to any of your homes, because I know where you all live. It's not close to my home, which was one of the main reasons why I said, whatever, if it's going to be in Spring Hill, let it be 183rd. I had issues when I had heard that the Quick Trip was going to have a travel plaza. And honestly, I posted on Chicken Chatter, which was a big mistake because everybody in this town has a truck driver for a husband. No offense. My dad was a truck driver, but I got blown away on Chicken Chatter saying everybody's husband was going to be a sex trafficker. It's not what I meant. It just, this brings, it does. Truck stops do bring human trafficking. It just does. One of the things I hadn't considered that other people have brought up is the closeness and the proximity to the schools. It's very concerning. I remember, you know, when my kids were younger and, you know, specifically coaching my daughter on what to do. You know, you don't talk to people, you know, coming out of Target, make sure you're looking for your car and all this stuff. But there's kids that are going to want to go to the truck plaza because, you know, you guys were talking about how it's going to be fancy or whatever. It's going to be attractive. But I heard there's maybe hotels that are going to go in there too, which I, again, don't know that this is a place for it. But so I want to just say that I actually do oppose it as a citizen of Spring Hill. I also want to say that there was a comment made, or maybe I shouldn't say that, but one of the factors is that nobody ever shows up to the Planning Commission meetings to oppose it. And that was one of the factors that was brought up too, was there's nobody here opposing it. One of the things I want to bring up is we don't really have adequate time to review. Nobody finds out about these things until they're approved by Planning Commission or what have you, and then there's a whole bunch of rumbling. I personally didn't know about it until I sat in my chair that night. I couldn't open up the documents and had said it and was told I could come and pick them up. I don't think having 2 days' notice of this is adequate to review. I think we need to slow down. These are major changes. This is going to impact the entire community of Spring Hill. Somebody put it best. Do you want a welcome sign there? Welcome to Spring Hill. Here's our truck stop. I mean, that's not who Spring Hill is. That's not why I moved here 18 years ago. I get that there's progress, but we don't need a truck stop. Let's do it in a way that is pleasant, that makes us want to move here, that makes people want to stay here. I know you guys have a hard job, I really do. But I just want to, you know, remind you and implore you, take the legal aspect out of it. I think we have to stop being scared of, you know, who's going to sue us or what's going to happen. Who cares? We need to get this stuff straight. We need to redo the comp plan, get it frickin' done. Get it done. So that we don't have to keep on going back and saying, you know, this fits in future land use or whatever. We need to come up with a plan, and it's not just that this happens to fit here because it's industrial or whatever. Is it what we want? Is it what we desire? Is this the actual piece that we want here? And if it's not, then we need to stand up and say, no, that's not what we want, guys. Sorry, go somewhere else. And maybe once we start sending that message, people will stop coming. The other thing I'm going to request is maybe somebody
you could try to wrap it up.
Yes, maybe somebody needs to review some of this stuff before it gets to this point, before it gets to Planning Commission, before people have their eyes set and think that they're going to get stuff passed through the Planning Commission and through the City Council. It needs to maybe be vetted before it gets to this point, because we got a lot of upset people, a lot of upset developers, but you got a whole lot of upset citizens, and we own the city. We pay the taxes. This is our home. You need to consider our voice, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Leah Langley, and I'm 18233 South Lone Elm Road. I have lived off 183rd for the last 30 years. I have a vacation rental business on the Gulf Coast. I travel through 5 different states. I use these travel stops to stop because I drive. I, in 5 states, cannot name one travel plaza that I have stopped at that is around a school. Not one. They're out in the open where there's plenty of room. Also, I came here to say, because obviously everybody in this room, we all have the same concerns. But I wasn't notified of this travel plaza. I hit about 75 homes tonight with flyers in my neighborhood. I posted on signs, stop signs, like anywhere I could get it, because I was afraid that nobody knew about it. I was out of town for 7 months, and I had to find out through Facebook. It's not where I want to find out these things. It's ridiculous. So I don't know who's in control of media or getting these things out there, but they need to improve their work, because right now it sucks. That's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi everybody, Derek Buckridge, 20456 West 220th Terrace. I, like Leah, have grown up in this town, been raised in this town, and now I'm raising my family in this town. Like everybody said, I'm a big proponent for step up or shut up, and thank you all for coming tonight. It makes a big difference. You're here, and that's half the battle. I think our planning commission member kind of hit on a sore spot for me. And I think it's a lot of stuff in our town, it's being pushed forward, and it's being pushed forward way too fast. There's abilities that we have as boards, and that's to create standards. That's to create standards for developers in our towns. There's a reason why people steer away from building so much in Olathe, is because Olathe holds them to a higher standard. You have 2,000 acres that can be built off 119th right now, but that developer's not going to build it because Olathe said, in order for you to develop this, you're going to have to build a road that's adequate for the traffic that's going to produce on this road. So it's developing standards. It's developing standards from the sidewalks. It's developing standards down to our planning commission. It's getting people on a planning commission that are not just, hey, I'm on a board, give me a pat on the back. But it's the people that are going to stand up and make a difference, and the people that are actually going to put forth and go, whenever I send you a grant, you guys are going to go get that grant. Awesome job. We got, what, $100,000 more to go towards safe sidewalks for our kids. It's driving the initiative on these boards. You all know I was on the Parks Advisory Board. I got off because we couldn't even get a full quorum of adults to show up to a meeting. I can do more from the sidelines than I can do on a board because our boards are not held to high enough standards. It's developing these, and you all have the ability to develop those boards. So seek the people, put out a true resume system. I'm not a big proponent for more government, but sometimes you need more government in your damn town to make stuff be more civilized and be able to actually build from it. And I think we're on the right path. And I commend you all for being on a board, and I commend you all for being on a council. And I commend you all for having tough skin, because we live in a difficult ass town, and there's a lot of people here that can make a difference. And they're here tonight to support what you all are doing and support and give them a voice, and you are a voice. So when we stand up here, it's because we're asking for your support. So thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just have one question. How is that?
Could you step up to the microphone and state your name and address? Sorry.
Gail Strand, 21470 West 181st. How is that industrial, a TA? That's commercial. Can you please answer that? Because I don't get it. Like I said, I'm a truck driver, and I know when I go to a TA, it's off Homestead Road, and it's out there, and it's definitely not in a commercial area. I mean, and I just don't understand that. So, for my lack of understanding, can you answer that? And you could take that off, but I think everybody here would like to know that. Because if this side of the highway is industrial, how do you put commercial?
Ma'am, this is not a time that they can't answer your questions. This isn't a question and answer.
Put it on the record, but could you answer that?
No, I understand, but this is just, it's not the time for that. Thank you.
We'll discuss it a lot more when we actually get to the item later on in the meeting. So, all right, if there's no one else, we'll go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. These are items that the staff considers to just be routine maintenance. So if there's any questions or comments on that, if not, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next, we'll move on to formal council action. And the first item on the agenda is consider approval of site plan application plat 000139-2023 Spring Hill Travel Plaza. And before we get that one started, Mr. Lau is going to say a few things.
Sure. So I want to just go through, we just had a pretty contentious rezoning a few months ago. So I want to point out to you all that this is different than what we all did with a rezoning. This is not a rezoning. Travel Plaza fits within M1 under the city code. So typically I'm up here talking to you all about the golden factors and our rezoning criteria. That's not what we're going to be looking at. It's not what you should be looking at tonight. Our city code has a separate set of criteria for site plan approvals. That's in your staff report. That is included from the planning commission. Staff did set those out, so it's an easy way to find them. If you want me to identify the code provisions, I can get those for you. We can go through them here for questions, but I just want to make sure you guys don't just treat this like a rezoning, because this is already zoned in a way that this is allowed. So the question isn't whether this is a permitted rezoning or whether this fits, or all the things we talked about quite a bit recently, but it's whether this site plan works for what it is and under those separate criteria, and there's less of them, so hopefully that makes it a little quicker for you.
Yeah, could you go through that criteria?
Might as well just lay it all out there, so.
So for anyone who feels like pulling it up on their phone or at home, we are in section 17.340, which is site plan approval. And then subsection D there, you've got 8 criteria to look for. That's your standard to review. So this is set by city code, guiding you guys on what to think about. So I kind of let this guide your conversation amongst yourselves tonight. So these provisions are: 1, the extent to which the proposal conforms to the provision of this code, which is city code and specifically the zoning code of section 17. 2, the extent to which this proposal conforms to the provisions of the Spring Hill subdivision regulations. So again, getting down into that subdivision regulation part of our zoning code. 3, the extent to which the development would be compatible with the surrounding area. 4, the extent to which the proposal conforms to the recommendations of the comprehensive plan. That includes the vision plan, community development recommendations, planning principles, and design guidelines. 5, the extent to which the proposal conforms to customary engineering standards used in the city. 6, the extent to which the location of streets, paths, walkways, and driveways are located so as to enhance the safety and minimize adverse traffic impact on the surrounding area. 7, 7, the extent to which the buildings, structures, walkways, roads, driveways, open space, if any, and parking lots have been located to achieve the following objectives. We get to subparts here: preserving an existing off-site views, conserving natural resources, minimizing adverse flood impacts, ensuring proposed structures are located on suitable soil, minimizing adverse environmental impact, and minimizing future and present cost to the city and private providers of utilities. And then your 8th and final consideration is all structures shall be required to have permanent or continuous footings and foundations. So so the focus there, as opposed to a rezoning, is there's a lot more focus on the building itself.
Hey guys, this is not a time for question and answers right now, okay? So if you're gonna be in the audience, we ask that you respect the people up here that are talking so we can all hear each other. We got people online that are trying to listen as well, and they can't listen if everybody out in the audience is being real loud. Thank you.
So yeah, slightly different focus here from your rezoning criteria. There's 14 of those, so one is we're almost at half that, which gets you guys a little quicker, but a little more focus on the buildings. And as the name implies, because it's a site plan, we're looking at the proposed site itself and what's been submitted. So with that, I'll let you guys converse amongst yourselves. I'll let staff present. The applicant is here and staff is here, including me, to answer questions as we go.
All right, let's go ahead and have the presentations and then we'll discuss after that. So if anyone that wants to present that's here, or Mr. Holland also, if you wanted to say anything as well. Whoever wants to go first. Mr. Burton.
Thank you. Good evening. This is a site plan, SP 139, 2023. It was looked at in the January 4th meeting date by the Planning Commission. It is a 16-acre site, an M1 zoning. The current zoning of M1 does allow for a truck plaza to be placed in there. Future land use map that was originally in 2006 and updated in 2010 and it was not changed at all since 2006. Continues to have this area and the surrounding area south of it, M1 industrial zoning. The site plan there, it was looked at by the Planning Commission. It did meet all the criteria. As you can see, there's several pad sites as well. They did look at the elevations of the proposed building that were presented and also in the site. All the right-of-way lines and all setback lines and all meet the criteria we're taking a look at. All the proposed structures, parking, traffic, and I might as well just address that. We had a draft traffic study at the time, and as all of you are aware that city staff is in in many meetings with KDOT on the whole K7 corridor, or 169 highway. And we were talking to KDOT. I mean, it's a KDOT highway. As far as the draft showed, it did show some improvements on 183rd, but you have to have the KDOT criteria for the traffic studies to be able to, for the traffic engineer to mold them to that. And so they ended up with what KDOT standards and all that, and the new traffic study was Friday, I think. And it was distributed to our traffic engineering department and was confirmed that it does warrant some sort of signalization and traffic control measures on K7 169 highway. The city can't just go put signal lights up there. And KDOT administration has been in several meetings with them, and I think they're closer and closer, not just this intersection, but all the way up and down through our jurisdictional areas. So it's very much aware that there is going to have to be some sort of control measures there. I'm not criticizing the state or anything, but there was a traffic plan from 2005, looked again in 2008 or 10, 6, something like that. And there really hasn't been any action on it, And the city is meeting with the state all the time on it, on a regular basis. And I think they've even gone to Topeka here lately, and trying to figure out what can be done. And because it's not just, there's a lot of intersections that are not correct as far as maybe the safety aspect of it.
And as far as signaling goes, we actually went all the way to Washington DC to try to advocate for signals on 191st and 183rd. That's how hard we're pressing to try to get signals there. So we are doing our due diligence and trying as hard as we can.
That's correct, thank you. So the property is already properly zoned, and the part that is within our jurisdictional control meets all of our guidelines. 183rd, there's some additional work that needs to be constructed there. Turn lane in there, they have adjusted. They on their own, believe it or not, took and moved the entrances into it farther away from KDOT right away, to try and help maybe accommodate something for KDOT and everyone to get going on that. So, anyway, we do have a traffic study. It has been looked at by our traffic engineering department and our standard engineering department, staff, public works, everyone. The landscape plan, when staff talked to them, we weren't exactly sure at that time how they were gonna lay all this out for each individual, because there was a possibility that there could have been another additional business presented along with the travel plaza. So the landscape plan, we have the landscape plan. Each one of these sites, pads, will also have a complete site plan and a complete landscape plan. If they meet or exceed it, it's really basically 50 trees or 50-foot intervals on trees, some entrance areas, for straight zoning, industrial. Because it adjoins industrial, and it adjoins streets and highways. Now, if this industrial was backed up against a residential, of course, it would be berms, and, then there's all kinds of subsections on that to make. But industrial against a highway, against a major street, and against industrial has a lesser criteria for landscape. So it really isn't too tough. I don't know, did we get it on web? There you go. So it wasn't very hard. Now, each one of these each one of these pads then will come back with a site plan, depending on the use of it and all. And most of the time they end up with a lot more landscape. So it meets all the criteria. It was reviewed by all staff, it's sent to all of our standard consultants, as well as all utilities, counties, states, everyone, and there were not any, matter of fact, we did not receive any negative comments back from the state of Kansas.
Are those trees around the outside, are those on berms at all, or are those just straight trees there?
Actually, along the highway, we did talk to them. The elevation will be brought up some in conjunction with the detention basin. Thank you. It's not gonna be 10 foot tall. It'll be a small elevation there.
Mm-hmm. Is the additional landscaping for each site included in this, or is that extra on top of what's?
It would be extra on top of that, yes.
I see some by the entrance, so I wasn't sure if that was what you were talking about there. Now, on the truck access entrance, I'm assuming that's an in only, and they'll exit over on Webster?
That's what they are proposed. Yes, that is correct.
So the only exit point will be from Webster for the trucks?
No, there. Well, there is. I know it says car access, and so I just want to make clear that this is private. So yes, car access through the one off 183rd Street, and we will make sure that there's signs and things like that up.
Okay. Because ideally, then we could say, okay, well, it's isolated to Webster, and then sign it.
It's shown that way.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And engineering's working with, you can see the widening there into the first entrance there. And the engineering's looking with conjunction all the way to Webster Street and what all needs to take place there and just helping out the widening of the street and all.
Okay.
Yeah, the landscaping, I don't have a huge problem with that. So the traffic study, so I'm not a traffic expert, I just know.
Neither am I.
I know what these people are saying about the traffic there. But, that's, I guess we have to rely on a traffic study to guide us in that decision. Yeah, it does seem like a lot needs to go there,
It does.
It's
I think we all agree.
No,
on
the
that.
traffic study says that. This is a state highway.
Yeah.
I mean, even if the city said, hey, we'll pay 100%.
Right.
You can't go out and put one up, sir.
Can we make a comparison to Quick Trip? That was kind of
There was
when we were putting Quick Trip in simultaneous, we were putting in turning lanes and new stoplights. Why can't that? Can we not do that in this?
Because there was an existing light there.
Okay, so that's the.
So what, and 199th, way back, 15 years ago, Mrs. North will know this well, and it was designated by the county as a truck route. So there was already preliminary designs for that intersection improvements, additional turn lanes and things like that. And I didn't mean that you were involved in it, you just know the background.
I didn't want the trucks going down there.
But you understand the background.
Yeah, but they also didn't know that the city would grow north like it did with a high school and elementary school and middle schools. And so the city has grown north, and that comprehensive plan of 2006 is so outdated. It's not the city that we have.
And that's what real quickly, we are going through a full comprehensive plan, and
just a shameless plug on that, we are,
Yes.
like Pat just said, we are going through a full comprehensive plan update right now, and we're trying to get as many people in the community involved as possible. So please get involved with that. Tell us how you want us to grow. Tell us what you would like to see. There's multiple ways to get involved. You can get it online. It's on social media. You can come to meetings. There's all different ways to get involved.
And not much participation.
Yeah, we've had
and
we're blasting it everywhere, but we've had very little. Out of a city of almost 10,000 people, we're averaging between 2 and 250 people engaging.
That's it.
So that's a very small percentage.
Everywhere, how come nobody here heard about it? No kidding.
It's,
That's wrong. That's not a very good.
Okay. Well, we've talked about it probably every single meeting we've had here for the last year.
We have stickers on the
It's been
streets.
on social media probably 100 times. It's on your water bill. So if you look at your water bill at all, there's a link right there onto it too. So there's a lot of different ways. But anyways, we're going to move on from that. I just want to know, we do want you guys to be involved. We want to hear from you.
And staff does.
Yeah.
We want to do what the book says and what the people want. And that's why I said this comp plan, 2006, it was barely updated in 2010. It meets the comp plan. It meets the zoning criteria. It meets the future land use plan, everything. And, to your point, that's exactly right. The comp plan didn't keep up with the growth and the development to the north and all around. And it's something that needs to happen and that we're working on now and hope that there's participation on it. Come and say, but I don't want you to say, but this is what we envision.
I have another question for you.
Yes, sir.
For Mr. Massey, but is there anything we can do to prevent truck traffic from continuing east past Webster? In other words, going,
Right, I'll talk a little bit about it, and then if Lane, if Mr. Massey would like to, but we can look at, and we will have the engineering look at the traffic going to the east over the railroad tracks. But keep in mind that it is all county road.
Yeah, that area is county and not Spring Hill, so our jurisdiction is. Hey, guys, I've said it before, please in the audience be respectful up here. This is not a talking back and forth thing here. We gave you guys your time to speak in the citizen participation, so we would just ask that you kindly be honorable to people up here and let them speak. Thank you.
Over the tracks.
I agree. I'm a little worried about the street parking. Is there a way along with that to say, hey, we can, I don't know, ban street parking, whatever it is, that we can say, hey, this is really the only place you can park the semis, not anywhere else around? Because I do understand that concern quite a bit, including Quick Trip, because that's, we already see that issue over there where they're just kind of lining up all over the place. So is this, having something like this, are we going to be able to go through the rest of the city and say, hey, we're not, street parking is not going to be something, stop traffic in certain areas from the trucks to go to, even if it is county, we can still put up, signs on our side to say, hey, we're no truck here, or whatever.
Right on our side,
Yeah,
that is correct.
Yeah.
And
So
that would go through.
Those would be the things that I would want to see.
Traffic safety committee.
Yeah, traffic safety.
Traffic safety committee it would go through.
Yeah.
But
Those are
yes,
things, I'd be.
that would be something that the traffic safety committee could review.
Yeah,
very
so I would
easily.
want to attach that in some way to say, hey, these two things need to go through that committee. So.
Right, the no truck traffic, or no truck parking, and look at the truck traffic.
Yeah, to the east of this to,
Yes.
to say, hey, maybe we put something on Webster that
Well,
says no truck right turns or something, because that would at least.
And I don't think any of us up here want semi trucks going barreling down on the east or west on 199th Street, on 183rd Street, on, we don't want them just blasting all through. Obviously, local truck traffic is different, but we don't want them all on those small roads. We do want to keep them on the highways and the main areas that are built for it.
Yeah. So that would be something that I would want to look at as far as saying, hey, can we, stop right turns basically from Webster to 183rd. That would be something I feel like we can control a little bit of. What else?
The one thing that I'll talk about while you guys are
Go ahead, yeah.
coming up with what you want to ask on. The thing I didn't hear about at all is the potential to bring, so if you look at this picture, there's quite a few extra pad sites on here, and those are opportunities to bring in a fast food, to bring in other type of commercial stores that would be amenities to the community that everybody's been asking for years. So there are with something like this, there are a lot of opportunities, because there are a lot of fast food places that do want to come near a truck stop or near something like this that are going to bring in, our job up here is to try to lessen taxes as much as possible. And we all know how taxes have gone the last few years. And so one of the ways we can do that is by bringing in commercial growth. And this will bring in a lot of tax revenue, and the potential to bring in other amenities would have another potential to bring in tax revenue and have amenities available to the community that everybody's been begging for years. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out that others haven't really talked about yet. And I'll leave it open for you guys.
I mean, there's a lot more to it than just a truck stop compared to some of the other ones around here. That part is kind of nice, but there's still a truck stop there, so it's kind of one of those things that we have to talk about and think about.
I had a question for Spencer, really quick. You read the 8 criteria, and so I can't remember if it was the 4th or 5th one, but does all the safety and traffic concerns fit in with any of that?
I think for our portion, it does, not necessarily the highway portion.
That's correct.
So for the city portion, he was saying that it fit all of our criteria for the 183rd and Webster portion, but not necessarily the highway portion. But that's the state's highway.
Right, we don't have control over the highway, so our portion that we have control and
Right.
jurisdiction over, it fits all of our criteria.
Could you go through a little bit on the M1 zoning, like what type of
Yeah.
things can go into M1 zoning, just so that we all.
Sure.
You want me to get it?
Anything from,
I've
well,
got it, Pat, I've got it up if you want it.
sure, that would be great, but I could also say pretty much it's from a car wash to the most intrusive industrial use you can have. You can have incinerator plants, you can have power plants, you can have wastewater plants, the glass plant.
And my understanding of M1 is that it's probably the most aggressive type of
Yeah,
industrial.
it's the,
It
the
is.
city's heaviest,
It is
most
the
intense.
city's heaviest, most, and that's what I was getting at from.
Yeah.
And the other thing
car
we've heard up
wash.
here for the last couple of years is everybody has said, we want to keep all the industrial in between 169 and the railroad. And that's exactly where this is. So that's, when they've brought up some other things that we did deny in the past, they were
That's correct.
outside of that. They were on the other side of the railroad tracks, and we all
That's
up here
correct, on
said
the
that's
east
not the
side.
right location for that.
Yeah.
And everyone that came and spoke said, we need to keep that in between 169 and the railroad tracks, which is where this is. So it meets a lot of the things that the community in the past has said, this is where we want this stuff to
That
be.
is correct.
Right, so your list of industrial uses in the code is a freight terminal, gas and fuel storage and sales, manufacturing, both limited and general, storage yard, warehousing, welding or machine shops, and wholesale or business services. And that's in addition to, there's a laundry list of commercial and public and civic uses that can be in there, so. It's section 17-330.
So with that said, it's a pretty aggressive zoning.
That's correct.
there. That's kind of what my thought was. With the, safety concerns, what plan do we kind of have, and maybe Chief can speak to this about, how do we, what type of presence can we keep there? What kind of cost is that gonna incur for us to make sure we've kind of got a handle on that area as far as safety concerns go? What would we need to be really, safe as we can, I guess?
Well, the only thing I can say is we did reach out to Gardner, Bonner Springs, Wellsville, who currently have truck stops, and inquired about the types of calls they had. How did it increase call volume for the police department? We got from Wellsville, they've had that truck stop there for about 5 years. In 5 years, they had an increase in total for the entire 5 years, 1,300 calls. And of those, about 138 were reports. Most of it was suspicious activity where, because it is coming and going, oftentimes the officers would get there, whatever suspicious activity was reported was no longer there. So those would have been cleared without any kind of contact. Talking to the chief there, they had not seen an increase in violent crime. Yes, there is an increase in calls for service. Anytime you add commercial, homes, other communities, more people, we will see an increase in calls for service. That's very natural. He said that, so most of the stuff that they did see an increase was with property crimes, whether that be shoplift or burglary to a car, which that is very unfortunately normal in commercial type areas. Bonner Springs, they have a truck stop off of I-70, I believe, and they are building another one directly across from it. The one that is currently there has been there for about 1.5 years, and according to, is he a captain or a major? Captain. He's a captain. Said that there has been no significant increase in calls for service, crime, or crashes, just more trucks. There's certainly more trucks. And we have not yet heard from Gardner on the truck quick trip, the truck plaza quick trip that's there off of Gardner Road. So we haven't heard that. As far as what we will do, just as we did with Quick Trip or anything else, we have 2 officers per shift. We will do our best to provide extra patrol, be in that area. If it is a 24/7, which I'm assuming this is a 24/7 one, shop, we will be there over after hours. Where there are people, we try to be there more frequently. And that's what we can do. Is it something that as we continue to grow, I'll be coming back?
Yeah.
And one thing I did in preparation for all this is I drove down to the Wellsville Truck Plaza just to kind of scope it out, see the lay of the land, and then also talk to people around there and ask them what it was overwhelmingly positive, everyone that I talked to, and just looking at the plaza. So I encourage you, if you ever get the chance, or if you've been down there, it's called Burt's Plaza. It's down there in Wellsville. It is a very nice truck plaza, and I believe overall it's been a success. I'm not saying that there's not, obviously there's crime in every area, so I can't speak to all that part, but it is, from what I've heard, it has been a success down there.
Those are directly on the highway, too.
close is it to the
schools?
About a mile from Tucson.
Yeah, not quite. 3/4 mile.
Yeah, so
Not in residential.
it's about the same.
The 45 employees, I believe, is what the manager told me.
For
There
the,
was a question.
At the Burt's,
for the,
Yes.
okay.
so 45 employees at the one in Wellsville.
Including whatever employees at the other, slots that are there.
There was just a question I remember.
Yeah.
I texted the manager.
And I don't typically answer things in the audience, but I did hear somebody say this one, the one in Wellsville is within, I believe, about a mile from several schools.
Yeah, it's
I've been down to
schools.
I've been down to those schools because I have 4 kids in the schools here, so we travel to the different sports things. So they are relatively close to that area.
So I was wondering if Chief Henson had the opportunity to talk to the smaller truck stop that's at 151st and I-35, because according to information that I have, it's a hot spot on the Johnson County crime heat map. And that's more like the situation we have. We have a lot more traffic from Olathe than Wellsville does. Wellsville's more secluded out there. They may have a school there, but those 183rd Street and 191st, we always went back and forth between those streets when we lived in Wolf Creek to get onto 169 highway. Not any travel plaza that I know of is right off of a rural road directly onto a highway that the people are going 65 miles an hour, and it is a mess there. And trying to hide our heads in the sand like it's not a problem and we have to do some expensive $200,000 study. We know what the traffic is. So we need to be honest with ourselves that might meet the requirement for that zoning there on that land, but the compatibility around it, it does not meet safety when there's schools back and forth. Wellsville, I don't believe, goes back and forth with the traffic that comes from Olathe and people going from Paola into Olathe and to St. Luke's all the way downtown Kansas City. The traffic is not the same. One life is worth more than anything, okay? And it affects a lot of families. And the bully issue, it's out there. Thank goodness, Debbie, thank you for standing up for the Planning Commission. I'm grateful for the citizens that have actually come out, been well-planned, that they've written letters. I would hope to see it more often. Throughout the years, I've gone to school boards, the parents don't show up, okay? This is the day and age that you need to come to every school council meeting and every city meeting. If you really want to have a say, you have to come. And I very highly commend you that democracy is in effect in this room. The city hall belongs to the people. We're elected by you or appointed, like I was at the time. But we represent the people, and we are the gatekeepers. The governing body is the gatekeepers. would you let anything into your castle that was out there? This country was won from courage and freedom, and that's what we need in each of our cities is freedom, not that we're going to be bullied. Yes, there's a lot of laws out there, but there's a lot of common sense too, and this is something that's going to impact for years down the road. It's not something that we just hastily put in there, and the schools are important. Kids have to go to the high school from Dayton Creek. How many homes are over there right now? 300 maybe, more? And we as the taxpayers do pay for things to happen in the city. So there are criteria that are not being met. The land requirement of the zoning's met, but it doesn't meet the Spring Hill Vision Statement. It's not making it safer, vibrant, family-oriented neighborhoods. It's also not, according to Section 5.9 of the Spring Hill Development Guide, which encourages the city to target clean industry that will be good corporate citizens. We've got fantastic corporate citizens that help with our city, Gemtech and the other lumber company. I can't think of the name of it now.
Christensen. Christensen Lumber.
Yeah, and we have so many good business partners in our city, and this is a transient area that will bring people into this travel plaza. They don't want to go frequent the other businesses of Spring Hill. They want to just, come get their gas. And there are problems that are real. Safety is the most important. It can't handle it. No matter how much you want to cover your eyes and say, oh, the state's not getting involved. KDOT could not mess with things for years down the road. We've seen it with Ridgeview Road. It hasn't been widened. I was told 5 years ago that it would be widened. It hasn't been widened. Until the state and the county and the people write letters to the governor, to the House of Representatives, it's going to take all of that. But I believe the people in this room are capable of doing that and going out like the one neighbor that dropped off 75 letters to individual neighbors. It has to be by word of mouth. It's grassroots.
Any other questions or comments up here, or if the developer or anyone else, any of the other staff want to?
Yeah, I'd like to hear.
Any other questions or comments from Pat?
From Mr. Holland?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from the developer.
Yeah, so if the developer or Mr. Holland, either one of you want to say anything, we'd love to hear it.
We're gonna plug in here a second.
Sure.
Thank you. While he's doing that, I'll introduce myself. My name's Kurt Holland. I'm an attorney, represent the developer, DF Real Estate, and also on the team with me here, Patrick Joyce. He's our civil engineer. We have our architect with DF Real Estate, Vice President Carter Hinkle's back there. So we're here to talk about, obviously, the site plan. And I do want to address some of the issues that were raised by the residents because there's confusion and anger. And I wanted to kind of help them understand the process and maybe why they didn't get notice. Can you get to my aerial? So as was mentioned by staff, this is a permitted use in the M1 zoning district. M1, if for those who don't know, is an industrial district. And as was stated earlier, it's the most aggressive, intense zoning district in the city. And as stated again, this travel plaza is a permitted use within that zoning district. It's also shown on the comp plan as industrial. So we match the zoning, we match the comprehensive plan. It's really on all squares there. The only issue before you tonight is whether it meets the ordinances of the city in terms of the site plan, and it does. But the reason they didn't get notice of it is because this is not a rezoning. It's not a change of use. When we have a rezoning or a change of use, like if we were going to change this to just straight out commercial, then there would be a rezoning, probably likely. Even though there's commercial uses on this property, if we were switching to something else that they might want. It's going to be challenging from the landowner standpoint because you've got a concrete plant next to us. You're in an industrial area. It's master planned for industrial. As was mentioned by the mayor, the industrial area or the part of the city that people wanted the industrial area to concentrate in was between the highway, and the railroad track, which is where this is. This has been long time shown on the city's future land use map, comp plan as industrial, and zoned for many years as industrial. So it's an industrial zone property on the map. Just to give everybody reference, that's where the location of it is. I think everybody knows where it is, but just to identify, there are some existing, as I mentioned, the concrete plant next door, self-storage. There's a whole lot of other Gentex there. There's a whole lot of other industrial uses that this would be compatible with. When we talk about compatibility, we're talking about compatibility within the immediate vicinity. Is it compatible with that zoning? And it is, in our opinion. Just real quick, the zoning, this is the zoning map. There's our property, and it's all purple. Everything to the south of us is purple. Everything around us is industrial. So it's yes, we'd like to see something different. That's what I heard. But it's really hard to do something much different than what we're showing to you here. And again, a travel plaza is a permitted use by right, which means the landowner has the right to develop the land in accordance with the city's zoning regulations, so long as they meet the site plan criteria, and we believe they do. Staff believes they do. There's been a lot of discussion about traffic, and I'm going to have Patrick talk a little bit about the traffic and the improvements that are going to be needed in this area. And you can switch to your site plan if you'd like. There was a traffic study, a draft of a traffic study done months ago. It was formalized and submitted to the city, and to ease everybody's concern, we're not just going to go out there and put this in there without doing anything about the traffic. The traffic study does show that there are existing issues there today. There's levels of service that are in the F category, which is F, think of school, F is bad. It's a failing grade. There's already those issues there. So what we're going to do and what's required according to the traffic study is to put a traffic signal light at 183rd and the highway. And then there are improvements along the turn lane. There's turn lanes, there's lane widenings, there's all kinds of stuff. I'm gonna let Patrick address that. So our point is we are doing the studies. We are looking at what needs to be done to develop the site. The traffic is a big issue, not just now, but when we know, hopefully if this gets approved and this is developed, all of that will have to go in before this can even start, okay? We're not just gonna start here and then wait 5 years for a traffic light. We have to do that first. So the traffic improvements come with this plan. And like I said, there's already existing traffic issues. The traffic improvements will be going in with this plan will help that traffic today. The site plan, and I'm gonna let Patrick go through most of this, is on the screen. You can see it. We talked about the Quick Trip, and there were concerns about Quick Trip. This is Quick Trip on the west side of this. That C-store is much like the Quick Trip down the street. We have some of the retail that we heard was needed and wanted. We have pad sites along 183rd Street and then on the west side of the property. Those are retail pad sites. So you're going to have those other amenities. The trucks, the travel plaza where the trucks will be located, is east of the highway. So east of the visibility. It's everything to the east of us is a concrete plant, industrial uses, right? So that's where the trucks will be. I don't think you'll see a lot of the trucks if visibility is the issue. We can talk about some of the other things. The whole thing about being close to a school, yeah, I guess there's a school in Dayton Creek, and I know the high school is not too far away, but we have travel plazas in communities like Wellsville, like you say, down in Ottawa, there are travel plazas across the country. We all visit the travel plazas. That's what I heard, that when we're on these trips, we go to travel plazas. But this isn't a residential area, it's an industrial area. And it was shown on the city's comprehensive land use plan for industrial, and it's zoned industrial. So to say it's a residential area is really not accurate. So, there are these other issues that got brought up that have really no bearing on your decision. What makes a difference? So this is part of your zoning code. You have a book of zoning regulations and subdivision regulations and how to develop in the city of Spring Hill. And as long as we meet those rules and regulations, and that includes the zoning and all the other things that we've talked about, really the decision here is whether or not we do meet those criteria, and we do. So with that, I will stop and let Patrick go over the site plan with you and talk specifically about the traffic improvements that come with this plan. And then if there's any questions, I'd be happy to get back up and answer them. So with that, I'd turn it over to Patrick.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Curtis. Patrick Joyce, 302 South 9th Street in Lewisburg, Kansas. I'm a civil engineer for the project. My firm was hired by the developer to do the traffic study as well as the site plan. I'll start off, I guess, talking, since traffic's been a big point tonight. I'll kind of go into a little bit more detail about what our traffic study proposes. As Curtis said, we looked at the intersection of 169 and 183rd in this existing condition. We did find that, mimicking what I've heard several people say, the signal, or the intersection doesn't really function great now. There's a lot of delay on the side streets, obviously. So once we add traffic to that from the development, obviously we're going to have to mitigate that. So for that mitigation, as you mentioned, we are proposing a traffic signal at that intersection. In addition to that, we are looking at adding an 800-foot southbound left turn, dual left off of 169 highway. That was also a function of not only car traffic but truck traffic. To counterbalance that, we're adding a second lane, a second receiving lane on 183rd Street. So 183rd Street from 169 to Webster will have two eastbound lanes. The southernmost eastbound lane will drop off at Webster and only allow you to turn right, if that makes sense. We've also got what you can see on the plan here, we've also got a right turn deceleration lane coming off of the additional lane that we're proposing heading east. Addition to that, we're also, so basically at this intersection, we're going to be looking at, as you look at that, basically a 5-lane section. We've got the two aforementioned receiving lanes that are a result of the southbound lefts coming off of 169. We're also going to have a dedicated left-hand turn lane on, that's going to be a westbound left turn lane onto 169. We'll have a through lane that's a dedicated through lane, and a right lane that is a dedicated right lane onto northbound 169. In order to balance that, we're also proposing lane balancing on the other side of 169 to add a left to a left turn that's going to be basically onto the northbound on 169. So some people had mentioned where do trucks enter. So you're correct. The truck access is intended to be over here, and then we're going to, we've got site circulation through the site that basically it's kind of in a clockwise fashion. As the trucks get their fuel, they exit over to Webster Street and then back out 183rd. The car access has been purposely separated from the truck, so we keep most of our car access coming in here, frequenting the fast food, the other pad sites, the things that we have, and then coming up to the car side of the convenience store. So we did, I think Pat Burton mentioned the landscape. We do have basically the code requiring 50-foot street trees that we've shown all across the west and the north side. We've also augmented with smaller deciduous and evergreen trees and shrubbery as you come into the main entrance. We're taking advantage of some taller ornamental grasses to help shield some of the truck maneuvers that are going on down in the south part of the site. That's across this island here, so large 5 to 6 foot tall grasses that are going to be lining that. So
Other things, I'm sure you saw, I don't know if I need to go over basically what's on there, but you see some of the bigger features. You know, we've got our detention basin, down on the south, that's the low end of the site. We've got outdoor picnic areas. We've also got, a dog park that kind of greens up the site. So.
Is there any plan for Webster to put any kind of turn lane in for left, or is that just gonna be stay the 2 lane?
That's gonna be the standard 2 lanes.
Okay.
But we did look at that intersection as well.
Yeah, is there a way to deter, or, I mean, is there gonna be adequate signage to say, hey, this is car access only, and, cause it looks like it could become a problem if a truck was to try to come through there.
So.
And obviously keeping them separate from the cars.
Yeah, we definitely want the trucks to use the further east access point, so signage will be critical to that. Should a truck make the mistake and go in there, they can actually get out of there, but of course we don't want them doing that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't even know if it looks big enough, but,
So one of my concerns was, southbound traffic on I-30, on 169, that'll be turning eastbound. So you said you're gonna extend the turning, it'll be 2 lanes?
Dual lefts.
so it'll look like
So
108.
It'll look just like where the.
So a single turn going northbound, but double turn coming south?
That's right.
And it'll be longer?
800 feet long, yes.
Okay.
I had a question for you. You said that you are gonna put a traffic light in, so when is that gonna be done?
That'll have to be done because of how the signal or the intersection functions now. If we add any traffic to it, you're gonna need a signal there. So that would be done with the initial.
So you're doing it, or the city is?
That would be something that typically we cause, and it's our responsibility to put in.
So you're paying for it?
That would generally.
Can you do an overpass instead of that?
If you got an extra
Well,
$30 million.
That's up, I mean, something like that is up
think of everything.
would be up to KDOT. I know KDOT in their their K7 corridor study proposed an overpass there, but, that wouldn't be something that we would be proposing.
Okay.
Yeah, the cost difference is.
Yeah, the cost
Well, I
difference
know
is
what
about
costs
4
are.
million
I'm gonna
versus
ask.
30.
Oh, yeah.
I think we'd love
So
an
the
over.
stoplight would go in before it would start, or after, or when exactly would it go in?
It would have to be in before the thing was in operation.
So, I mean, what's your timeline as far as, you know, if this was to get approved, kind of what is the timeline of starting and kind of completing? So is there enough time from breaking ground to when it's completed for a stoplight to even be put in?
I mean, yes, we haven't gotten to the phase where we've actually gone through and put together a construction schedule.
Okay.
But that's typical. That happens all the time.
Okay, so that there should be plenty of time.
Yes.
For everything to work together. If for some reason KDOT comes back and says we're not gonna do it, a stoplight or allow a stoplight, what would happen then? You would just open indicated, or is that, I know you've said that you wouldn't open until there's a stoplight, but if they come back and say, well, we're not gonna let you do it.
Well, KDOT's gonna have to do something.
Yeah.
And they're gonna have to do something with that intersection to make it work. The traffic signal is the obvious solution.
Yeah.
I think we all know that KDOT doesn't pay the whole thing. The city's gonna have to pay for part of it, and there's no guarantee when that's
not
gonna
what
get
he
in.
said, though.
not what he's saying.
That's not what he's saying.
With the way things work, we know usually that the city, and other discussions that I've heard, the city has to help pay for part of that, and there's no written contract guarantee of when that signal goes in there. And why on earth, of all the land, did you put it on one of the busiest areas where people, you don't get it, go in and out for school, and it's already bad? 191st and 183rd are probably the crappiest places that travel plaza could go in. And it's too bad that we didn't know the regulations that were established better, because I think the city of Spring Hill needs to pin down the regulations better, because this wouldn't go into Olathe, this wouldn't go into Lenexa. You're comparing us to Ottawa and Wellsville, and Spring Hill doesn't want to be like those cities. We're not little rural cities. We're the fastest growing city of people moving out of Olathe and Overland Park. They want to live in Spring Hill. The school districts are good. We've got the heaviest taxes in all of Johnson County. And just like the Monarch plant, this doesn't have to do with you. but it was in little asterisks, and we know that they don't work 24 hours and the lights are on all the time. Maybe you guys that have these plans don't care, but the people that actually live in this city care. And there's human beings that live here, not just truckers. So we like truckers, but we don't really want it on that area. So.
And trucks can't even get up to speed before they get to 175th Street.
Exactly.
I do want to
Hey,
state
guys,
that there's.
we've had our public comment section, and I appreciate you being here, but.
Hey, guys, if you're not
We're
going
here
to
to
be
talk.
respectful, we're going to ask you to leave.
Freedom of speech.
I do want to state that there are instances where developers have paid for a stoplight. Quick Trip is one of the examples. They paid for the stoplight there in front of Quick Trip. So it does happen that developers do either help pay or do pay for the signalization when they develop something.
And then who repairs the city's streets? Because Spring Hill already has a lot of streets that have to be repaired. We know the cost of Lincoln with all the semis that was there that needed to be done. They're good neighbors. Who is going to repair 183rd Street? And who's going to repair Webster after these trucks are coming in and out? Because that's part of the revenue that the city spends it on. So I think those are things to consider too.
Can you answer that? Like, are you gonna do some repairs too? Or
So, no, I can't answer that. My role as a civil engineer is to design the site initially, and so we'll have to build up the the pavement when we do the widening of the road and to take the traffic into consideration. But ultimately, it is turned over to.
Once it's built, it's turned over to the city.
Yes.
Yeah, just quickly, there are a number of improvements that need to be made before this project is allowed to start. So yes, there's improvements. It's laid out in the traffic study. And then as far as maintenance, we'll be paying, in fact, this is a heavy tax generator. We'll be paying a lot of taxes. So we'll pay our fair share for any of the maintenance. But if you'll read the traffic study, and of course no one will believe it, 90% of the traffic that's going to be coming to this site is highway traffic or pass-by traffic. So it's fully concentrated on the highway, not going east and west and so on and so forth. The complaint about 175th and Lone Elm, 167th and Lone Elm, if you go over there, there are lots of, and it's a growing industrial area. There's warehouses right at 167th and Lone Elm, east or west rather of Lone Elm and 175th Street. There's a big million square foot industrial building built right there. Coca-Cola distributing plant is built right there. So that's why you have trucks in the area. So it's an area, it's along the highway, it's zoned, to answer your question, it's zoned industrial. It's permitted in this use. It's a lot of already heavy truck traffic in this area, and they need a travel area. So
Sir,
if you're asking for why, that's why.
so let me just ask you this, without any disrespect, we keep talking about something that I haven't seen.
Uh-huh.
Where's the traffic study? I mean,
Your city has it.
From 2006.
No, we just
No, they
submitted
just
it.
did it, so
It's
I'm
in your
trying to figure out.
possession. You'll have access to it. You
Before
have
I
it.
vote?
Huh?
Before I vote? I mean, I wanna see it.
It's at the city. I mean, it's here. I can't tell you where it is. You'll have to ask your staff, but.
Dismiss this. They don't even have their plan.
Hey, guys, I'm not going to keep asking you guys to please be quiet.
So
this is getting a little bit out of hand.
With regard to the traffic study, we explained what was going to be done and needed to be done and is part of this project. So that's all I can tell you. And, the traffic study's here.
Yeah.
That's why you have staff to read it. If you want to read it, I'm sure you'll have access to it.
You all can also request a break if you want. I mean, if we want to take 5-10 minutes.
I need a
and
break.
Given,
And
yeah,
can I see the traffic study?
yeah, and given the temperature of the room, it might be a good thing.
All right,
to cool off a bit. So that is up to you all to decide breaks. I don't get to call that shot, but I just want to remind you can do that.
Yeah. I move that we take a 10-minute break, coming back in at, what time is it? 9:18.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. We will see. I want to remind everybody once again, if everybody could please stay respectful out in the crowd. I know this is a hot topic. I know we do appreciate you guys being here. We just want everyone to please be respectful and let us handle business, because at the end of the day, this is a business meeting. So with that, we will carry on. Are there any more questions for the developer or anyone else?
I don't have any questions, but I'm hearing a lot from people that they didn't know. And I know this is different than zoning. And so is there anybody, even Lane, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, just to kind of talk about the process that this has gone and why people weren't notified, or how, I'm just trying to figure out, the communication's really important, and a number of people are saying they didn't know about it. So can you give some insight into that? Again, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just.
I think Pat would be the.
Or Pat, whoever, I'm sorry.
Not to put him on the spot.
Yeah, and he's gone right now.
Okay, anybody?
I don't see your city attorney here, but.
No, he's right behind
He's coming in now.
Okay. I'll
Yeah, Spencer could probably answer.
Hey, Mr. Lau, could you, you want to ask him again just so you can hear?
Yeah, one of the things I'm continuously hearing from citizens is that they didn't know about this, and I understand it's different than zoning and there's not a public hearing, I get it. But I'm trying to figure out, like, how did people not know and they're just hearing about it now, and it's like this rush deal? Can you just kind of talk to a little bit about what our process is, and maybe that's something we need to work on, or I don't know, but just explain it, because I'm still learning myself.
Yeah, no, sure.
Thank
So I think what most people are used to, and you guys are probably tired of hearing me comparing things to a rezoning, but whenever there's something that requires a public hearing at the planning commission, which is a rezoning, the city is required by state law to send out a notice to everyone who lives within 200 feet, or if they're in the county, within 1,000 feet. Which is why a lot of people always hear about those items, because they're getting a mail, and even though I don't always read my mail, most people are better than me about it. With an item like this, there was no public hearing, so state law doesn't tell us to send out notices to people. What the city does do is all of our agendas are public, they're on the website, so the agenda for this meeting has been published for, what, Glenda, roughly a week? Is about when we put those up early?
Oh, for the city council?
Yeah.
Yes, we sent it out, we would have sent it out Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
For the public.
So Monday or Tuesday before each Thursday meeting. And then this was also on a planning commission agenda at the beginning of the month, and we would have published that, the Monday before that meeting as well. So that's the best way to stay informed. We have a city calendar, read through the agendas.
And I believe that is the standard process for most jurisdictions. That's
what every city does. So Spring Hill is not
just
unique.
does. This is done all across the country.
Right, yeah, we don't send out letters for every potential building or house that goes up, because that would be a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of paper. So that's just not something the state has told us to do, and I have yet to find a city who's sending out a letter for every site plan, especially a city like Spring Hill, which is growing very quickly, and we have a lot of site plans coming for planning commission, so.
Mr. Lau, Mayor, can I interject?
Sure.
So, under the Kansas Open Meetings Act, anybody can ask for our agenda if we prepare one, which the city of Spring Hill does. And this also goes for the Spring Hill Planning Commission, or any board, Parks Board, Board of Zoning Appeals, our city cemetery board. And on our website, there is an option for Notify Me. And all you have to do is click on that, and then it will bring you, and all you need to do is put your name and your email address, or you can get notification by a text. And anytime, depending on what you signed up for, and we even have an emergency notification, and just any other notification, but it is a Notify Me. And if you would like to have an agenda of any of the boards for the city of Spring Hill, then that goes into our database. We do not sell those. That is a private in our the back end of our website. And anytime we send out a notification of a meeting, if we've canceled a meeting, if it's a regular meeting, if it's a special meeting, those go out to the residents or the community who has signed up for those notifications. So that is one way by law that we have to notify the public if we are meeting. And for instance, if there is going to be a quorum present, but you are not going to have any official business, we even send out notices like that. Sometimes we have a quorum that's going to attend a chamber coffee. We will say, we may have a quorum at the chamber coffee. There may be a quorum, but there will be no business presented at that meeting. So that is one way that the public can get notified of meetings and agendas, and that goes for all of our boards. The planning commissioners meet the first Thursday of each month at 7 p.m. in this room, and the city council meets the second and fourth Thursday of each month. Cemetery board, it's on a Tuesday, and so on, but people can go to our website to find that information. But that's how we notify, that we are required to notify under the Kansas Open Meetings Act. So I just thought I would let you know and educate the public. If you want to know what's on our agendas, that is the one way that you will find out.
And once you sign up, it'll auto send it to you every time. So
Correct.
It's not something that we have to manually go in and do. It'll
Right.
automatically send it to you every time.
The public would have to cancel them to not receive those anymore.
And then also it's also live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. So if you ever want to watch and just watch the live stream of the planning commission or the city council meeting, that's another way to watch and stay informed. And that's another reason why we ask everybody to come up to the microphone and speak, so that way the people that are online watching can hear the questions, hear the answers, things like that.
I appreciate the clarification, because transparency is important, and if somebody feels like, things are going on behind the scenes, that I have an issue with that. So
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure that everybody knows. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I do have a quick question. Do we have any rules or regulations around the noise or the running of, just kind of sitting and running all night long in the parking lot? There's nothing really. Not for the industrial. No.
In general, I mean, there's.
I think it's.
The city has a specific code.
Okay.
I think they do, it's more for car radios. But I don't.
Is that something that could be changed?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
and so,
yes.
so we could, I can't remember what citizen, but they said something about leaving their truck running idle. If it were to get approved, the concern is they leave the car or the truck running idle and stuff like that, so there could be a rule or an ordinance.
Yeah, so the city largely adopts what's called the standard traffic ordinance, which the Kansas League of Municipalities pushes out every year. So every city essentially then has the same overlapping traffic laws. Every city also gets to add and subtract from that at will, depending on what we want to add and take in. And we do have additional parts and change parts. So that is something we can go in and change. We typically adopt the standard traffic ordinance or re-adopt it every 1 to 2 years, so that we're always current. So yeah, that's a regular thing. And again, because that's coming before you every 1 to 2 years, this is one of those things that if people are noticing a real issue with this, bring it up to us.
Same
We'd love to
for
hear from
Jake
you. We can
breaking
change it.
too, because I know that was in couple of the emails about Jake breaking. Is that something?
Yeah, that's something we
In
can put in there,
general,
but we
even
need to,
without
we'd check the STO.
Okay.
I know that's something that we just approved recently, the standard traffic ordinances.
Yep. And that's definitely something
I think we've done it a couple
discuss.
times since.
For sure.
So yeah, something to address there.
I think it would be a good idea if we could use your help, Mr. Lau, to help bring our regulations up to the standard of like Lenexa and Overland Park, so we don't get into situations that we have to deal with like this.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for, and I always welcome and happy to take emails from you all and planning commission members saying, hey, can we change this? Do we do this? I've talked to staff about rotating through our zoning code and subdivision regulations of every few years. It's a burden on our planning commission, but in other cities, yeah, the planning commission will go through and kind of hit sections, see if they need to update and change. So that's certainly something. Our city codes are not written in stone. You have the ability to change within the confines of state law, so we can do that.
Any other questions or comments?
as far as, our engineer reviewing it, it seems to conform with all the engineering. I think I saw Dan here, but, everything meets there.
And it was recorded that they are paying for the traffic light and if this is approved, that it will not operate until that traffic light is in. Is that how everybody understands that? If this is.
That's what I heard, but, yeah,
Okay.
just to make sure.
Okay, I got two
Alright,
head
cool.
shakes. Okay, thank you.
And really just to go back to the site plan real quick, I think I heard you say this, but I'm not sure, but, cause the picture looks different, but you were saying there was gonna be 5 lanes up there, but to me it looks like the straight and the right turn are the same lane. Is that correct?
There'll be 5.
So will there'll be a separate right turn lane?
Yes, from this plan, we're adding a second right.
Okay, so there will be.
That's dedicated, yes.
Yeah. And so it'll go from, basically from 5, I guess it'll turn into 5 anyway, cause or actually 6 then, right? Because we'll get an entry lane.
It's really 5 lanes right there at the intersection because of the auxiliary lanes.
Okay.
The left and the right are additional lanes.
Okay.
The through is the one that's gonna be kept the same.
Okay.
And that one, goes off to the east, and then the one that's coming from the east, shifts a little bit, and then we have, our second through lane is always out.
KDOT approval.
Yeah.
All that.
I think
Of course, there's that.
The other question is when we don't have this at, well, I guess we have a different type of right turn at 199th, but because it would be part of the stoplight, I'm assuming, that right turn, would it be kind of like the 199th where it's its own turn lane?
You're talking about the westbound right as you.
I'm talking about the right-hand turn to go north onto 169 highway.
Yes, so that'll be part of the signal. There'll be a signal.
So will there be like a no turn on red type, would that be a recommendation there?
Probably
Just because of how fast they're coming through? Or would that be a KDOT thing?
That would be a KDOT thing if that's something when we get to the actual design of the geometrics of the intersection, that'd be something we'd address.
Is that something we can recommend? To say, hey, right-hand turns at the red light?
Sure.
Just because, they're gonna be coming through pretty quick,
I think we can always recommend everything, but they're gonna do what they wanna do.
Sure.
Okay.
And in addition to that, we're also having advanced warning beacons, flashers that basically go off so that you know when the light's red or there could be cars stopped there. So
Okay.
As a
kind of like what we have now, or the other ones. I think as far as site plan goes, that's all the questions I have.
Any other questions or comments?
So even if you say you're gonna pay for that stoplight, it has to go through KDOT. And KDOT is very slow and they're stubborn. So it could be years down the road. There's no guarantee.
I
There's no
understand, but they also just said, if this is approved, that they're not gonna be able to operate it until the stoplight's in and functioning. So that's what.
So how are you gonna handle that, not being able to open it up if KDOT doesn't give you the okay?
We have to work with KDOT and we have to figure out a way to make that safe. And like I said, without the signal, it just, this thing doesn't operate.
I think it's a great plan as far as the Circle C and the car and the groceries that people could get there for this area of residential, which it is very close, 3 miles is close to residential. And the other tenant buildings are amazing if you had a couple of fast food places, and that's exactly what Spring Hill wants.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the people want, and that's what they want to see in between when kids are going back and forth to school. So I commend you on the one half where it's the Circle C store and the tenant buildings, but the rest is detrimental to Spring Hill, the truck stuff. And some of the other concerns are legitimate. Whether everybody wants to close their eyes on it, we've heard from truckers. It's not the biggest concern of the trafficking, but the traffic safety is big concern, but the human trafficking's real. Yes. There was a movie just put out in the United States, and people are more and more aware of it. And so it is an issue. It's between all the schools. It's close to people's homes. They're already plagued by the Monarch cement thing. But if you could cut it down to just that little area and get some good things in there, everybody would be happy and everybody would be working together. But the trucks are just not a good thing there.
Any other questions or comments?
I guess my last question is, if there's still an issue with KDOT not allowing the stoplight, will that stop construction if construction's already started, or what's kind of or you'll just keep working with them until they finally say?
Yes, we wouldn't, we wouldn't take a risk like that to start without that.
Without that, so
Yeah.
theoretically, we could approve this site plan and then you could have KDOT say no and you would kind of hold off anyway.
That is a possibility.
Yeah.
See, and I'm kind of stuck on that. Like, the stoplight portion or information, we've all known that we need to do something about that intersection for a long time. Adding this to the area enhances that even higher, obviously. It's really good to hear you tell us that, yeah, we see that it needs a stoplight. We're planning to do X, Y, Z to do that. I'd really like to see some real pictures and that would include the intersection too. I also, like, if you guys know that and you've told us the intersection has to change first before we can even think about building this, I don't see a huge urgency in needing to say yes to this tonight. Now, having said that, that I don't think we should say no to this either. Like, you've identified a lot of the same problems that we've identified and a lot of the citizens have identified, is that the intersection needs to change first. And you've told us that you guys want to do that. And so how do we build a trust? Because I understand you committing to that is a risk for you guys, because later on down the line, this could not get approved. You know, and I don't think that's fair to you guys either. So, and yep, the lawyer's gonna come up and talk. But I mean, you guys have identified the same number one issue that we've all identified. And I don't see that this has to be decided tonight if we've all agreed that that's the number one issue, and you're telling us that you want to work on that issue first before you work on this issue.
So just my quick answer to that is, it's going to be a condition of this approval that we have all this done. So there's no risk to the city for approving it as it is. It's a condition of the approval of the
But
plan.
we're just talking tonight.
So, and then.
That's not written down.
It is
We can
part of the
put our
record. It is,
motion,
sir,
yeah,
it
we
is
can.
definitely part of the record. It is part of this approval.
Agreed there.
So you know, we can write it down if you want. You can tell us and we can agree at the microphone, which we are. So, yes, it's part of the approval.
Yeah, that would be kind of my question, is like, yeah, can we say, hey, it's
And this,
approved based on the condition that the stoplight is approved?
you know, this is on a timeline for us, for our development.
Yeah.
We need to move forward now. We can't get to step, you know, A.
Zach, I assume you have to have the site plan
So-
approved for KDOT to really take it serious.
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting here talking about KDOT dragging their feet on things. This is what pushes them to go drag their feet. If a developer or anyone goes to KDOT and says, we'd like you to work with us and approve this stoplight, and then once that's done, the city might approve this site plan, KDOT's gonna say, so what?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I get it, but
I mean, and does that just end
waiting,
right there?
but tabling this until KDOT is sort of putting the cart before the horses. This is that condition precedent to getting, this is the condition precedent.
KDOT won't
to
approve it
see.
without a site plan.
Right.
But you don't even have the information from KDOT to start the conversation.
We've met with KDOT multiple times.
We're not.
And you talked about how many different roadblocks that you're trying to say, well, if this happens.
Any other questions or comments up here?
Yeah, I've been pretty quiet tonight. The two number one issues that I've fielded discussions, emails, calls, conversations with, that we deal with or are trying to improve and trying to fix here are the lowering the tax burden and improving our infrastructure. Like, those are 1A and 1B on top things all the time. When I started, there were other issues that were higher on that list, and we've been able to check some of them off. Those are huge, and this provides massive benefits to those two issues. I think that's hard to argue. It also comes with everything else that we've talked about tonight. So that's that's where the difficulty is. That's where the crossroads is. So, and I'm really uncertain on what the best answer is tonight, which is why I'm really leaning towards we just need to table this. I think we should think about it more. I think we should gather more information. I know there's a ton more information that I want and need time to look at and read through, and I don't know that will influence my decision one way or another. I really don't. I also don't want to limit our options. I also don't want to put us into a worse position. So I've been really compelled by what's been spoken here tonight also, and I think that's really important. And you know, there's people in the audience who I would disagree with on certain things, but there's people in the audience who I would agree with on certain things also. So I agree with you, Wendy, that like this is a great example of democracy in this room. I thought that was a great statement. Like that's exactly what we're doing here. You know, the idea of the developer doing the legwork on the stoplight is first I've heard of it 20 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago. Like, I need some time to soak into that and see what other angles might come from that, or what other, I mean, like, this type of decision, I don't want to get a new piece of information 20 minutes before I have to decide it. You know, and one of the statements from earlier tonight was like, this is a 30+ year forever decision. You know, so we don't want to be wrong. And I'm not saying let's put this off 6 months. Like, I'm saying I don't see a lot of harm in us taking some more time with this. And I'm not talking months or years. I'm talking maybe this ends up back with us in 2 weeks or a month or something like that. But that's kind of where I'm at. This is, I feel like I say this every meeting now, that this is a really tough one. And, you know, we're not going to get a lot of easy decisions. So, I don't see a lot of harm in doing some more legwork on it.
Any other questions or comments?
I don't have any other comments.
If there are no more questions or comments, I entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the site plan SP-000139-2023 for the Travel Plaza.
What if I move to approve tabling it for a while to give us more time to think?
Hang on, so, hold on, so when there's a motion,
So do you have to cancel that one
no,
first?
hang on, Ms. North, there's a motion that's awaiting a second. There will be a vote on that motion. If that vote passes, that motion passes. If that vote is struck down, then we can accept a different motion, but one motion at a time.
Okay.
So just to be clear, if we vote on the motion he just made and the answer is no, it has to be seconded, yes, then we could pass a different motion.
Then you can make another motion.
Yeah, we can make another.
The same process. So, yeah, right now we're waiting on a second, and once there's a second.
We're still discussing it, guys, that's why it hasn't.
Hang on, so we, once there's a second, if there's a second, that's when we have these talks. Is there any comments about it before we vote?
Okay, let's wait for the second then.
Okay.
Sorry, go.
Right, so I have a motion, is there a second? Okay.
And yeah, then that motion fails.
That motion
We're back to the
fails.
floor, back to discussion.
Lack of
Where
a
we were
second.
before, right?
Yep.
Okay. My concern was if we said yes or no to the first motion, what's that do to a potential second one?
So now he can do
No,
If it's
no,
yes, obviously.
Now,
it's
you,
done.
you could make the same exact motion again if you want.
But now we can
All
do
right,
Brandon.
I entertain a motion.
I motion to table it, to have more time to think about it.
I second the motion.
Yeah, so when do you wanna table it to? Next meeting?
Yeah, state when.
Yeah, we don't table indefinitely.
A month?
2 weeks, next meeting.
2 weeks. Okay, next meeting.
Okay, so the motion is to table until our next meeting in 2 weeks. Do you, and council member feedback with that addition to the motion?
I
do you still
second it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Did you say aye?
I said aye.
Motion carries 5-0 to table it to the next meeting in 2 weeks. Next, we'll move on to item number 12, consider approval of ordinance number 2024-01, rezoning
11.
Sorry. Next motion, next item is number 11, consider appointment of board member for Planning Commission City Representative. And that is Mrs. Mary Dobson, she was in the county and moved to the city, so she is moving into the city position. And so I just entertain a motion to,
Excuse me, can
Yes,
you
ma'am.
ask, it's hard for me to hear.
hey, guys, if you guys are leaving, if you can try to stay quiet, our staff can't hear us talking up here. Thank
So-
you. Appreciate you guys all coming.
On this one, you're not looking for a motion, so they're
Right.
appointed with the consent of
Consent
council.
of-
So, yeah, you just put forth her nomination, then we'll just move to a vote.
Yeah.
Okay. And are there any questions or comments on that?
Is it a roll call vote or is it no, just aye. Okay.
All right. All right, anybody opposed? All right. Thank you, Mary, for serving, and we look forward to having you continue on the planning commission. Next, we'll move on to the next item, consider approval of ordinance number 2024-01, rezoning application Z-00014-2023, RR to R1, and that's BR Estates at Arizona LLC, and Mr. Burton, you have the floor.
This one's
Oh,
gonna take
Dave.
this one.
Mrs. Long, you have the floor.
Okay, the applicant BR Estates at Arizona has submitted a request to rezone the 69-acre property located at the southwest corner of 207th and Ridgeview. The property is currently zoned RR, which is rural residential, with requested rezoning to R1, single family. A map showing the districts was included in the staff report, which you have. On January 4th, the Planning Commission conducted the public hearing on the rezoning request. Staff presented the staff report and clarified questions from the Planning Commission. A copy of those minutes were included in your packet. Following the public hearing, the Planning Commission voted 5-1 to recommend approval of the rezoning. There was a 14-day protest period and no valid protest petition was received. The Planning Commission recommend approval of ordinance 2024, I'm sorry, I don't have that, for rezoning application Z-140-2023 from RR to R1.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments on that one?
And this is just for straight R1.
Correct.
No P involved. And this is directly to the east of Woodland Ridge, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Other side of the creek.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess my comment on this would be, we're going from RR to R1. Just my comment is, personal preference is RP. Yeah, I feel like we have better control with RP, which is what it was originally zoned, right? Or what,
It was zoned RR.
or, excuse me.
It was originally proposed.
So thank you.
Proposed,
That's
yes.
right, thank you.
Yes.
So, I don't know. That's just my main, that'd be my main my primary comment is, with the R1, just there's less control, you know, what they're gonna put on there, the houses that'll go on. It's a little more concerning to me because I feel like there's more unknowns there. I feel like, I just like RP. But that said, I'm not necessarily against this. I just think my preference would have been RP1.
Can somebody, because I don't have it in front of me, explain the difference between the two? Just even briefly? I'm sorry, I'm still, like I said, kind of learning and I want.
Sure, so anytime there's a P in there, that's called a planned district. So with R1, it's just single-family housing, and there's a set of minimum rules, and as long as you satisfy those, you're good to go. With an RP1, you have to come to the city with what's called a development plan, and you set out essentially where every house is going to be and elevations, and it's essentially more of a rigid plan, and you have to follow your preliminary development plan that the planning commission recommends to you all and you approve. So it's just another layer of, some people call it control, some people call it teeth. It's just an additional plan that they have to stick to that. They can't go in, and if they want to make significant changes, they have to come back and ask for permission. Whereas with an R1, it's just sort of, that's the classic single family. So an R1 and an RP1 are both a single family, no duplexes, no apartments, nothing like, no shops, but.
I think the original.
The biggest difference is probably the lot size.
Correct.
So the limitations on lot size are much bigger. Like you have to have bigger lots on R1. On RP1, you can put smaller ones.
Correct.
So it plays into like density, but also with control, how they're talking about it. They have to bring their plan. The plan has to be approved, whereas R1, as long as they meet the guidelines that we have, they can pretty much build whatever they want.
Setbacks and, side yards and things like that. I think that was the original pushback for that area from the planning commission, was that the density for it. So when they came back with it, it was just R1 saying, okay, well, we're gonna make the biggest lots that are, the biggest requirement as far as lot size go, but we just lose some of that other control. But,
Right.
It is some of the, bigger lots that way.
Which I think benefits having bigger lots, benefits the surrounding area.
Yeah, the other ones that we've rezoned around this area have had a mixed use grab bag of different zonings, just similar to this.
And they've all been planned though, so this will be the first one in a while that hasn't been a planned district.
Which was my comment. I feel like we have, we see what's coming, it gives us a better eye to the future. We see more specifics on what the development's gonna look like.
Yeah.
But I have no reason to think this is gonna be a bad development. I'm just making the comment that.
It's more variety, so you got some planned stuff, planned districts across the street, in other areas, which gives you variety in lot size, variety in the type of home that's built there, and in my eyes, variety in cost also is what I really think is a big focal point. So
I would say it's less cookie cutter probably when most R1s.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 2024-01, rezoning application Z 000-140-2023.
Second.
Got a motion second. Is there any further discussion? Could you want to state from RR to R1?
Oh yeah, from the rezoning from RR to R1.
Got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye. Oh, yeah,
Opposed?
there should be roll call.
There's a roll call?
Oh, sorry, it's an ordinance. Yes, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
And can I just verify, did you say, to, pass ordinance 2024-01 in your motion?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure. Okay, so, get you here. Mr. Peel?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. North?
Yes.
Mr. Van Houten?
Yes.
Ms. Feedback?
Yes.
Mayor Berkey?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of ordinance number 2024-02, rezoning application Z-00014-2023 RR to R2, and that's BR Estates at Arizona LLC. And Mr. Burton or Mrs. Long, you still have the floor.
All right, this is for the same piece of property. This is the northern part of it, northwestern part. They are looking to rezone from RR to R2, two-family district. The Planning Commission on January 4th held their public hearing. A copy of the Planning Commission minutes are included. After the public hearing closed, the Planning Commission voted 5-1 to recommend approval of the rezoning request. The 14-day protest period went by with no valid protest petition received. The planning commission and staff do recommend ordinance 2024-02 for rezoning Z141-2023 from RR to R2.
So I'll say I think this is similar to the other one, right? So this is gonna require a little bit larger lot sizes and things like that compared to what an RP2 would be. Density wise should be a little bit better than RP2. Well, requirement wise, at least, but that's my understanding as far as that why they came back this way, right? From what I remember from the planning commission meeting.
Any questions or comments on that one?
I would still prefer the RP2, but I mean, I understand wanting to have the larger lots, so going this route makes sense.
Yeah, I think you get a benefit from each one. This one, you get the benefit of the larger lots. The other one, you get a benefit of a little more control, so you're kind of weighing the scales.
I also like it because like we have planned district across the street already. So like this is another item. Like we're increasing the variety.
Yeah.
If there are no further questions or comments, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve ordinance number 2024-02, rezoning application Z000141-2023, moving from RR to R2.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
No.
If not, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. North?
Yes.
Mr. Van Houten?
Yes.
Mrs. Feback?
Yes.
Mr. Peel?
Yes.
Mayor Berkey?
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-02 passes 600.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of ordinance number 2024-03, rezoning application PZD-000123-2023 from NP to RP4 by Ad Astra Development. And Mrs. Long, you still have the floor.
All right, the applicant Ad Astra Development has submitted a request to rezone their 10 acres of property located between 169 Highway and Webster at 195th Terrace, otherwise known as the Wiswell property. The property is currently zoned MP, which is Industrial Park District, with requested zoning to RP4 Planned Multifamily District. You have a map showing the zoning districts in your staff report, and the legal description is in the ordinance. January 4th, the Planning Commission conducted their public hearing of the rezoning request. Staff presented the staff report and clarified questions from any of the commission members. A copy of those minutes are included. Following the public hearing, the Planning Commission voted 6-0 to recommend approval of the rezoning request. The 14-day protest period passed with no petition received by staff. The Planning Commission and staff recommend approval of ordinance 2024-03 for PZD 123-2023 from MP to RP4.
I vaguely remember kind of going back and forth on this small piece. Originally, I thought we had kind of already addressed this going to RP4. So we never did anything with it? I know originally.
It didn't ever get rezoned. I think.
Okay.
I think when they
mentioned it when
presented
we
the
did it all.
Wiswell project in whole, that it was part of the discussion.
Yeah, that's what they said. Oh, I think we're gonna change
Probably
this.
some preliminary drawings.
That's probably what it was. I'm like, I thought we had already done this.
Yeah, so this was already
So we
planned,
discussed
just
this.
never officially changed the zoning.
Yeah, I mean, multifamily or apartment type, this can be more like a seniors and living center, right?
Correct.
So, you know, it's kind of by the highways and in that type of areas where that kind of stuff goes normally. So I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I think it's a great fit for that area, and I think it's a good variety to have that sort of senior living, so it's a good thing. Actually, I think the whole project looks great. So I have no problems with any of this.
Having Webster finished through there, going back towards Quick Trip, back towards the city, I think will be a big advantage for them.
Positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, I don't have any other questions.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 2024-03, rezoning application PZD-000123-2023.
I'll second.
Sorry. Changing from MP to RP4.
Now I'll second it.
I've got a motion and a second.
Pause a little long, sorry.
Is there any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Mrs. North?
Yes.
Mr. Van Houten?
Yes.
Mrs. Feback?
Yes.
Mr. Peel?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Berkey?
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-03 passes 600.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is consider supplemental task agreement number 2022-07-SUP-FINAL with Lampreneerson for 2023 street maintenance project, base repair and crack seal, supplemental in the amount of $10,400. Mr. Miller on the floor, but it looks like Mr. Spear's gonna do it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this item before you is consideration of a supplemental task agreement. This is for last year's street maintenance and repair program. So there was a significant amount of additional work. That project started out with a little over $800,000 worth of construction. In the end, it was just over $1.9 million worth of construction. So with that extra scope of work came extra services from Lampreneerson. So they are asking for an additional $10,400 for that additional work.
And just so the public knows, where was this area of street repairs done?
So this was chip seal work kind of all throughout the community. Most of the additional work was the paving on Victory, on Woodland, and on Lone Elm were the significant parts of the additions. Staff would recommend approval.
Any questions or comments from Mr. Spear?
This is work already completed, correct?
Correct.
And it is, I will say, I know I've said it several times, but I'm so glad to have those areas, especially Woodland Street repaved. That's been a huge win, I think, for us. It was a long time coming, but there was some processes that had to be completed before we could complete that work. And so we are glad to have that done. And if you've driven it any time in the last month or so, it's really nice. It's a huge difference. So. And if there are no further questions, I entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the supplemental task order with Lampreneerson for design, bidding, construction administration.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider task agreement number 2024-01 with Lampreneerson for the
Considered. So this is looking forward to our 2024 street maintenance program, and all of those not only initial design, pre-construction services, but also inspection services during the project in the total amount of $63,600 for the chip seal, some overlay work, and some mill and overlay at various locations. I think we've got a map also that we can show you those areas. So the areas shown in purple on that map, generally the west side of kind of the Old Town Central City, the next piece of Woodland from 207th up to
215th.
From 215th to 207th. And then the screen in green, that would be a mill and overlay, and that's 199th from 169 to Webster. So that would be a mill and overlay. Woodland would be an overlay, just like we did the portion to the north, and the rest of it is chip seal.
And that'll be really nice there to do that south area of Woodland as well. It wasn't nearly as bad as the north part of Woodland, but it's definitely getting rough, especially if you're trying to go downtown to the coffee shop or Pops or any of the other businesses downtown. It's pretty rough going.
So thanks for identifying it.
So yes, that'll be nice. I did let some people ask about that, and I told them we did already have plans to do that. So we just wanted to get the worst area, which was the north by far, and then we'd move on to some other stuff. So I'm glad to see this on there, and it'll be nice. Bring on the warm weather. Any other questions or comments?
I'll move to approve task order with Lamper Nearson for design, bidding, construction administration, and construction observation services for the 2024 street maintenance project in the amount of $63,600.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider task agreement number 2024-02 with Lamper Nearson again for the 2023 Cars 199th Street pre-construction phase services in the amount of $38,718. Mr. Spear, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, so this task agreement is for some of the pre-construction services. We've asked Lamper Nearson to help us with that 199th Street project. That is 199th Street from Ridgeview to Renner. And this is with Lamper Nearson acting in the capacity of our city engineer, helping us with the evaluation. Lamper Nearson will not be designing this construction project, but this task agreement is for them to help us with the that plan review of that third-party plan preparation, help us with the analysis, the evaluation of those plans and that project as we move it forward. It's in the amount of $38,718, and staff recommends approval.
Questions or comments on that?
Yeah. I really don't want to be a downer on this. But the 199th project was the stick in the mud for the budget discussions last year. And we're at a decision point right now with this, that if we are gonna approve this, we need to be committed to the project. We've put it off a year. And if that were to happen again, I don't think that we would have it available to us anymore. We're likely to lose it, would be my opinion, my assessment. So
I would say if we're worried about that, then we probably table it to along the same lines as the other project.
well,
We don't know what
I don't know if
doing.
timeline wise if we can do that or if that's problematic or not problematic. I'm just, and of course they need time to do the work for it in order for it to be ready to go when we get there. I feel like a year ago, we approved this probably around the same time for this project, and we got ourselves into a situation where we backtracked later.
Yeah.
And spent some money that.
And I don't want to do that unless we really fully know what we're saying yes to when we say yes to this. And the budget process is not easy, and we know what implications we were facing last year with this.
And this is a big project.
And
I mean, what we're approving now wouldn't be a big project, but the overall project is a big project.
right, which means, budgetarily, to put it as bluntly as possible, either the bill levy's got to go up or significant painful cuts are going to have to happen.